Because you've got powerful legs. How'd you get the physique? Was it gym or how'd you get the physique?
I've always been...
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump. You know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 530th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings, and joining me this week on the call we have just Matty Di Gialinardo. Andy Patterson is off serving his 1 week ban, but don't worry, we're still going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everybody listening through the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire month of July. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Whenever I was logging in here tonight into StreamYard, Matty, I don't know if you've ever seen the messages that come up. Sometimes it'd be like a pro tip. And it said to me, pro tip, don't forget to welcome everybody who's watching back on YouTube or whatever during the week. They may be not listening live at the time. So shout out to everybody who's listening in on YouTube or maybe on one of the other podcast catchers during the week. They might be out walking their dog or something, or maybe doing another day at work. And we're here trying to help them through. Might be having a nice relaxing evening with the missus, perhaps, Matty, lighting a few candles as we speak, pouring out the wine, listening to your sultry tones, whispering in their ears, no less.
That's also possible. I mean, I'd also like to thank all the people from the various governments around the world listening in today as well on the surveillance technology of their choice.
Well, as long as they like and subscribe, we'll take all the listeners we can get. I say,
yeah. FBI, bring up those likes. MI5, bring up them likes. Right? Come on, what are we doing here?
Absolutely. It's a scary thought, a scary world. And I'll tell you what else is scary. Jerron Boots Ennis. We're going to be talking about him very shortly. Also going on to Lewis Nery later on. Bit of Floyd Schofield, not so much Philip Schofield. A bit of Virgil Ortiz as well. Next week, we've got Josh Kelly. We've got Alicia Baumgardner. Frank Martin. Me and Matty have been doing the unrivaled work, putting in the hard yards, watching his opponent.
You had it worse than I did, Steve.
So you don't have to. Trust me, that's been some good work. Shout out to the chat as well. There's Butters. Shagging the missus as we speak, boys. Good foreplay pod this is. Well, I'm glad we're providing some kind of a service anyway. Nice bit of foreplay in the boxing world. Last night, Matty, Jerron Ennis, as we mentioned, with a 10th round KO of Ruiman Villa. The scores were 88-83, 89-82, twice at the time of the stoppage. I thought Ennis was absolutely fantastic. The jab was there early on from the orthodox position. He slotted into southpaw perfectly. Villa was looking to weather the storm early on to get into the later rounds where we thought he might be able to do a bit of damage.
Well, that backfired.
That definitely backfired in this instance. I did say last week, I wondered whether Ellis did well early on, but he hadn't got the power to keep Villa off him. If Boots was landing the same shots that Ellis was landing, he was going to definitely hurt him. I think he took centre ring, backed him up. The nose was bleeding. He took a lot of unnecessary punishment. I wonder whether it could have been stopped a couple of rounds earlier. I just thought it was a fantastic performance from Ellis. Punch perfect, may I say.
Yeah, he is quite the offensive force, and his defense is a little bit underrated throughout all that, I think, as well. He definitely picks his moments. He has a good eye for shots. The fight against the Karen of Europe might not have gone as he wanted, but he's shown that he can go later into the fight, pick up a late stoppage here. I thought that Villa he was game. He did tick off a round or two in there probably. That third round, I think it was a hell of a good barn burning round in there, Steve. I thought that was good. They exchanged some good fire in there, but ultimately, Villa just succumbing to the onslaught of Boots, who is a powerful fighter, and there's a lot of Terrence Crawford in him and the way that he goes about his work. I guess that's why that fight would be so interesting. And I'm not talking the switching. I'm talking about the way he goes about his offense. His offense can be his defense. Ultimately, very clever fighter. But we'll see where he goes from here. It's Villa probably went to the hospital. Hope he's okay, as MB putting in there. He asking if he's okay after last night. Great question on that one. And given I guess this is a decent enough segue, not to steal away here, but Virgil Ortiz out of the picture now in the WBA thing. They're not going to deal with his health issues anymore. Hope he's okay. But that might open up the door for Boots against Stanionis, as for dealing with the potential Crawford Spence 1 and 2, as it's contracted for. Might not end up that way, but we'll see. And I'll tell you what, that's a damn good fight, because if there's anything that could potentially keep a guy like Boots in his place and limit what he could do, it would be a good stiff jab. And we know that Stanionis has one of the best, if not the best, in the game. So I think that fight is tremendously interesting, and I hope, given everything that has happened, that we get to see that one, because that's about as exciting of a fight for me as Virgil Ortiz, which versus Stanionis was. But unfortunately, we're never going to be able to see that fight.
Well, hopefully we can see Stanionis, considering he is a PBC fighter. He was going over to fight Ortiz because they won the purse bids. We'll talk about Ortiz shortly. I don't think Ennis will fight Spence and Crawford. They've got their own business to attend to. And after the 2 fight or 3 fights or whatever they end up having, who knows what position they'll be in. Maybe the winner will move up to 154. One or both could retire. We just don't know. I don't see them fighting Ennis, is what I'm basically saying. So we've got Spence, Crawford, whichever your pick is, 1 and 2. And Ennis for me is a clear third. I think Ennis, myself, I don't know what you think about this, Matty. Ennis would bully Stanionis. He'd give him a beating. The way he puts the hands up, he'd get the body shots in around him. The jab is a good weapon for Stanionis, but I think Ennis would work him over and really bust him up, which says to me the fact that Stanionis Ortiz was such a close fight. Where does Ennis against Ortiz sit? I mean, we're looking at Ennis beating up Ortiz as well. How would you see him against those 2 guys? Obviously, Ortiz is going to have to move up now. As
Ortiz at 154, interesting enough fight. We'll see if Virgil has anything left, right, Steve? I mean, that's the question. I mean, how many times can you end up in the hospital over the same shit? And then they have the COVID as well. He's a young man, and it's a shame. I know we don't want to go this direction and derail everything, but it's frustrating for me, because I've wanted this fight 3 times. 3 times it's been postponed. We just call it canceled now, because they're both exceptional fighters. I thought it was great. But I think Virgil Ortiz is one of the most athletically gifted fighters of his generation. And I am afraid that we're never really going to be able to see the best that he could be, because he was fighting so hard to try to make a weight which he could no longer make. And I get it. You finally get into the title picture and you got to move up. It happens. So that one's out. I disagree with you 100% on Stanionis Boots not being competitive.
He'll be competitive, but I think Ennis will just work him over as the fight goes on and bust him up. Sorry, that's what I should have said.
I still think I think the one thing that I caught watching Stanionis against Butayev that stands out for me, and if there's if there's one kind of single thing where I think that Stanios could get in trouble, it's he does go to the body well. I think he's an underrated body puncher, honestly. But if you look at what he did against Butayev, he kind of comes up out of the crouch throwing, and that leaves his chin exposed. And if you want to see, an example of that in the ring, really getting caught by that, that's why Bradley got hurt so many times against Provodnikov. So I could definitely see Boots grabbing that shot, but I could see this being a 12-round fight very easily. I think that Butayev is a big physical son of a bitch, and Stanionis took his best. He might have gotten buzzed a couple of times, but he did not go down, and he was able to weather the storm with a ferocious body assault against him too. So I would not. Yeah, he's going to have a good chance to win that fight, and it's going to go a 12-round decision. I'd say that Ennis is going to be favored, and he's probably going to be favored about what Ortiz was, which I was shocked by, which is about 3-1 with the books. It was what Stanionis was paying, but I think honestly that that would be an incredibly competitive fight, and I think PBC needs to do that fight because they got to kind of start clearing some of what they've built up at 147 pounds. Like everything has been built up. With Crawford Spence as a possibility, Crawford being in other sanctioning bodies, but they've built up this incredible welterweight stable with all these different fighters who are good or right below the level that's title contention, and they could win out on any day, kind of like how 154 was for him 7-8 years ago. And they need to start making some of these fights because it's they're only getting these guys in the ring once, twice a year maybe, and it's not doing them any good fighting guys that are 20th ranked and shit like that. It's some of it's just ridiculous. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it will be competitive. I just think with his speed and power, Ennis will start to punch through Stanionis at some point, and that's when it really gets interesting. People have mentioned Jamal James as a possible opponent. I know he's held a version of the WBA title in the past, and I think Butayev won that off him. So how about Stanionis fights for this vacant WBA world title against Jamal James, and then the winner of that fights Boots, who can fight Cody Crowley in the meantime to keep him active, and then they're sure to push them together. So you've got like an IBF interim WBA world title unification, the shittest title unification of all time between two really good talented fighters if they both win their respective contests.
Well, here's the unfortunate thing about it though, Steve, is they're all secondary belts. And the politics of these sanctioning bodies says that you cannot unify the secondary belts.
Good point.
So if you're doing those fights together, honestly, it's just because I don't want to use the spot next to poor Cody's parents in the graveyard there. I think Jamal James against Cody Crowley and Stanionis against Boots is a lot better level against level potentially, but you never know, it could happen.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Just while we're on Virgil Ortiz, actually, I was listening to Ortiz's manager, Rick Murrigan, recently talking on the boxing debate arena, BDA Boxing. Shout out to them. And he claimed, this was a couple of weeks ago, that the health issues of Ortiz had been dealt with. His fighter was going to move on. He did try to make weight, as we all know. I mean, if you're fainting, he's obviously gone out there and tried his best. It's time to call time on his welterweight career. He's missed weight in the past. We know that. He's suffering from this rhabdomyolysis. A move up to 154 is definitely what is needed. However, does this solve the problem? We all automatically think, right, he's going to have an extra 7 pounds now, moves up to 154, that's all his problem's going to be sorted. But maybe it's not cutting weight that is causing these ongoing problems. Maybe there's some kind of underlying medical concern here. I would be more concerned with Ortiz in the wider picture. There's maybe something that needs to be urgently addressed here, not just moving up to 154.
Well, yeah, they should obviously. Moving up a weight class is important, but maybe the ferocity of training is hurting them. I mean, we'll figure it out. We've had someone in our group who is a medical professional who has said that that rhabdo could be related to steroid use too. And I don't want to say that's the truth, but that's something that's out there. I have no idea on that. But let's just call things and say everything's, straight up. He's just couldn't make the weight. Yes, move him up a weight class and get him in a 6-rounder against a no-hoper. And boxing fans, give the guy a fucking break, I mean, because I've heard things as far as he required mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, or some sort of resuscitation from, when he fainted. Like, he was in a bad way. So if he can continue his career, they should be, going for, definitely a weight class up and just kind of easing him back in, and, and definitely, checking in with doctors a lot along the way. That needs to be a big part of his training, is just some sort of medical supervision to keep an eye on him. Because if it is this bad and it's not just cutting weight, the guy's putting his life on the line to try to get into the ring. And I mean, that's admirable. I mean, it's, in a sense, like, I love that. I mean, because that's what everybody is ultimately really doing. It's a very dangerous sport, and this is another layer. So I mean, I admire that tenacity, that dedication to your wanting to achieve your goals. But we can't have people fucking dying in the ring on us, Steve. It's just simple as that.
Well, I mean, a ring death here and there, Matty. That's just that goes with the territory. Obviously, I am joking, of course. Someone was saying in the chat there about where does Ortiz fit in the wider picture up at 154, which is traditionally, I say traditionally, over the last few years, been a PBC dominated weight class with, like, say, your Harrisons, your Rosarios, your Erislandy Laras. I'm looking up there now. You've got Jamel Charlo obviously on top of the pile, but of course he's moving up to fight Canelo. Tim's Hughes waiting patiently for his chance. Charlo holding all the belts. Mendoza has some kind of interim strap. You've got guys like Murtazaliev, Conwell, Madrimov hanging around, not really the cream of the crop. I wonder where Ortiz maybe fits in there. I'm looking desperately, Matty, down these rankings to see if there's any kind of DAZN-linked fighters. Josh Kelly's quite high, one of them, Liam Smith. I mean, there's not any great pickings really for Ortiz that I can see at the moment.
No, it's a weird place to be in. So it's I think. Well, and unfortunately, we don't know what the 154 picture looks like until the Charlo Canelo dust is settled, and however that ends up going. I mean, because imagine if Charlo actually managed to win that fight, that would totally throw things into a loop. So it's I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's still some of those aforementioned fighters hanging around those divisions, and some of them are free agents now, Steve. So he could find his way in with some of them, but at this point in time, I think it's just more a matter of trying to get the health issues resolved, anything like that. I think whatever picture he fits in, I don't think we're going to know at least until the middle of next year, because he has to get through this, get some meaningless fight under his belt, just to have some sort of a barometer on where the guy's at.
Yeah, the boys are keeping me right here. Going about Liam Smith. I have no idea what he's doing, to be honest. He's looking for another Eubank or Triple G payday, so obviously that would be on up the weight. And then somebody else made a comment. Oh yeah, Fundora's rematching Mendoza on the PBC, so that's not an option. Andrew Thickett says no way. Wasserman Channel 5 lets Josh Kelly fight at that level for a while now. I know Josh Kelly's fighting on DAZN. I'm assuming that's part of the Cali Sowland deal rather than anything to do with Eduardo. But again, I could be open to correction. As for Ennis, Matty, he's only 26 years of age. He turned pro at 19, so he's got plenty of time to burn. I always think he's massive for the weight, but it is remarkable. I saw somebody mention this through the week. He's been a pro for 7 years now. He's 31-0 with 28 knockouts. He's looked like $1 million. We all know the promotional issues he's had, signed with about 4 different promoters, which I believe is the reason why the PBC were reluctant to take him on fully, although they seem to have embraced him now. I know he had contracts left, right and centre with all different people, but it is bizarre. That's such a talent. We can all see how good he is. I know he has the interim title, but at his age, given the amount of fights he's had, he's only now still looking for a world title shot of some description. That he hasn't received that already is quite bizarre for Boots, really.
Well, and the fact that the people, that are at least involved in his career have so much say around those divisions and who fights who, etc. Yeah. It makes me, that's one of the reasons I can't go all in with you on him beating a Stanionis, Steve, is it makes you think there's something missing there that he's been held back on. And if, is it something he can work and improve on, or is it ability to take a punch? What is it? So I don't know. That's kind of my hesitation on him is, kind of shit or get off the pot. What's the hold up here? So we'll see.
Yeah, Michael Thompson saying Hagler was over 50 fights in before he won his title. He was, but that was a different era, wasn't it? These days, you usually tend to get an opportunity if you're well connected. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Didn't he have a couple robbery losses early in his career? Because
he definitely, yeah.
Because he had what? I mean, he had the three losses on his ledger, 4, or was it just?
He had 2 losses by the time he got to the world title level because he was fighting against those guys like Sugar Ray Seals and all them, wasn't it? And he got the draw with Antifermo. Was it Willie Monroe? Wasn't it Willie Monroe's uncle? Yeah, no, it was his uncle beat him, didn't he? I think wasn't he one of the guys who beat him? I could be wrong.
Let's see. Well, I'm pulling that up right now, Steve.
Yeah, I think Willie Monroe
because that's one of those things. Because you have to remember, like, that being the year that it was. What they say, you got 3 things going against you. You're good. You're southpaw and you're black.
Yeah, exactly. And then he went on the mad run, and then he got the draw with Antifermo, didn't he? And then after that, he kind of beat Minter, and then no, Michael's absolutely right.
So he had the draw against Seals, and to tell you how funky that one was, check out these scorecards on that one, Steve. 99-99, 96-98, 99-99. I mean, there's clearly some fuckery afoot there. I mean, what the hell are they?
99-99. So they're literally like one around each.
And that might have been, that's none of that makes sense because like it couldn't have been like some where they did the 5-point system at that time. But, I mean, even over the course of 15-round fight, if that's what it was, that wouldn't be the math. Then he lost a majority decision to Bobby Watts in 76. And then 2 fights after that is when he lost to Willie Monroe.
All right. Yeah, Bobby Boogaloo Watts, he was a good fighter.
So and then he obviously avenged Monroe and went on his way up there. Fought Roy Jones.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he fought Monroe again. Jesus Christ. He just wanted to go at it. Yeah, so it's so interesting enough. Yeah, and then he got revenge over Seals in 79. Everything. I guess you got to weigh everything in its own way. Like Jeremias Ponce had 30 fights before he had a title shot. But it's I don't know. You feel like there's something that we're not catching that his management knows. I don't know.
Guys like Ponce, though, it's more like they're unfancied guys. They'll sort of keep plodding away until eventually someone gives them an opportunity. The likes of Jorge Sebastian Hyland, constantly going on the road, winning fights. Eventually, they couldn't do anything but give him a shot. But with the likes of Boots, it seems to me like everything should be stacked in his favour. He looks good. He talks well. He talks a lot of shit. He's on the right network. It seems like everything should be there, and for some reason, he hasn't got the shot. I'm interested what people in the chat think, actually, because there's varying opinions here. Matty wonders whether there might be something that we're not seeing, maybe a chin issue or some kind of deficiency. I think it's to do with the promotional issues myself. But, I mean, I'm on the train, as I was saying to Declan Graffin earlier. From what I saw against Villa just last night, Villa just rubber stamps my opinion of Boots. I think he's the goods. I think he ticks every box defensively, offensively. I think he's fantastic. He showed a decent enough chin. I thought he took some shots last night. The style that seems to trouble him is the people who just run away from him completely. And I don't see too many deficiencies. There's a reason they're holding him back. And whether it's Matty's reason or my reasoning, I'm wondering what the guys are thinking. Some fighters just take longer to get the seasoning for a title shot.
And that just going backwards, it's enough to survive, I guess, against him, but it's not enough to win. Like when Butler fought Inoue, it's like, yeah, cool, you survived for X long, but that's it. You don't create points that way. So that's the thing is, and I think it's just a matter of we need to see him against some better fighters. They mentioned Thurman. Everybody seems to think he'd steamroll Thurman. Well, if that's the case, then you should probably put him in with Keith Thurman. Why shouldn't he have that name on his resume? Let's find out, because if there's anything that Keith does that could give Boots trouble while everybody's screaming that Boots is going to steamroll him, Keith can move backwards and pile up points. He's done it against a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I don't like Thurman's sort of attitude at the moment. This business of coming out and fighting once a year. It's almost like he's retired to me. He's not active enough to get the Wellington seal of approval at the moment. He needs to fight
PBC.
more.
He's PBC. That's what.
But even for the PBC, his inactivity is something else.
Yeah, I mean, how much money did he make fighting Pacquiao? I mean, it's he probably got in like the $5 million range in that one. Barrios's pay-per-view, he probably got 2 or 3 of that. I mean, how much he's clearing, I don't know. And he doesn't seem like that kind of guy that's just like, blinging it up and rolling around in Ferraris, right? So he doesn't have to fight. And that's the blessing and the curse of the PBC banner. Like, people that thought fighters were being treated poorly and not getting paid well. Well, there you go. I mean, they're getting paid well now, but they're getting paid so well that they can only afford to get them out once a fucking year.
Yeah, they need to stop that shit, man. Start paying him 50 grand a fight. That'll get him out fighting quicker, I say.
Yeah, we need to bring back the age of impoverished fighters if we're going to get any, competitive shit in this sport. I mean, you show me 2 fighters from third world countries that could feed their families for half of a decade on 6 figures of American money, and I'll show you someone who's going to fucking fight hard.
And often.
And often. Damn right. They want to get the fuck out of Nicaragua or sub-Saharan Africa. Fuck that. Why do they want to be there?
Absolutely.
Why does Keith Thurman want to leave Florida? He's fine.
Yep.
He's perfectly happy there.
Nicaragua, Guatemala, Wolverhampton, all the shitholes of the world. They're fighting their way to get out.
Did the CIA get involved in Wolverhampton too, Steve?
I'm sure they are somewhere. They probably got out quickly if they had any sense. Lewis Kelly's thrown in a question here, Matty. He says, Matty, as the token Yank, can you explain the catch a body statement? I really dislike it. It puts me off him. I did like Matty whenever he used to have catch a body on the front and R.I.P. grandma on the back. It seemed like quite a sinister combination.
You're like, did he kill his grandma? I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. Americans have this really we throw around loss of life like it doesn't matter, and then when it happens, we like really flip out about it. It's I don't know. I don't know. I think it comes just kind of from a cruel culture. But that's I think that's far too deep of a conversation for today.
Yes, I think maybe it is. One final thing before we move on to the undercard. I did think it was funny afterwards. Boots made a bit of a slip up. He was like, thanks to Showtime and ESPN. No, sorry, Espinoza. You could see where that kind of mistake would happen. ESPN, Espinoza.
Yeah, that's why you got to have him and Thurman fight each other, Steve. They won't know what the fuck's going on in the post-fight interview. What city they're in, who's representing it, the network. It'll all be a blur.
The classic Thurman one was it. He was fighting in San Antonio, and he was like, "Let's hear you, San Diego," and he's like, "No, I'm in San Antonio," and the crowd like, "Boo!"
Great.
Yep. Let's get Thurman back in the ring. That's what I say. Right, onto the undercard. What did we have propping things up? I've dropped it off. Here we are. Edwin De Los Santos against Joseph Adorno. We'll go to that one next. An L for me. As much as I got the Ennis fight right, I got this one badly wrong. Edwin De Los Santos.
I told you, Steve.
You did. To be fair, scoring a 10-round decision win over Joseph Adorno just wasn't active enough. And I tell you what, he was lucky to get out those last 2 rounds. I thought he was running for his life as best as he could to avoid getting stopped. This De Los Santos must punch like an absolute madman. I thought it was a really good fight. Adorno, he has a dangerous habit, I thought, Matty. I always noticed the stupid things. Kept messing with his shorts all the time. I don't know whether they can't get a pair of shorts that fit. He kept pulling them up and down, and De Los Santos was like, "Oh, thanks very much. I just hit you really hard." He was very disciplined. He boxed off the back foot. I thought he might fade like he did against William Foster. He didn't. He wasn't struggling to get inside at all. He did exactly what he wanted to do. His trainer said to him, "You've got the best jab in the division," which might be a bit of a stretch. I thought he showed a new wrinkle to his game. That, with the power punching, is going to make this guy a very dangerous proposition at 135, I think.
Yeah, he did a lot of good stuff in there, Steve. And real quick, yeah, as soon as you came in and said that you thought Adorno was in, and I told you, I'm like, well, I picked Adorno in the prediction league, so you're fucked. If there's anything I know, both of us picking a big underdog, having some leaning on it, then I think that pretty much is the devil stamp of fucked. But anyhow, I was impressed with De Los Santos, which means of the saints, and man, his hands are blessed. Talking with Joe Burns this morning, and I was surprised he got the same thing as me. Last night I was watching him, and I'm like, God, he reminds me of another fighter. Who the fuck is it? And I was thinking this morning, and it finally hit me like a ton of bricks. It's Adonis Stevenson. He fights a lot like Adonis Stevenson at his peak. That real sharp left hand. He throws a nice right hook to the body. He can kind of catch you stepping in and turn angles pretty well. And he's at a much younger age than when Stevenson found his level in boxing. So very excited to see where De Los Santos, with his one loss against William Foster III, could fit into this 135-pound division, which, as we discussed, stacked. probably the most stacked in boxing. And honestly, I'd love to see where he goes next. Personally, I'd like to see him take on Foster the Third again. I think that's the way to go. Let's clear that up. Adorno needs to really consider his future. He's just not active enough with that high hands defense to make it work. To do that, you have to, if you're going to be, looking for the knockout shot, you got to be quicker of foot and work on cornering guys, let your hands go. And he's just too hesitant to let his shots go. It's not working for him. He's got to go back to the drawing board. But De Los Santos, keep doing what you're doing. Looks fantastic. He's definitely someone to watch in the 135-pound division.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to see where he actually fits into that aforementioned division. He's number 11 with the IBF. That's obviously Haney holding most of the titles, if not all of the main titles that matter. Number 9 with the WBC. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else around that sort of PBC, although he is a Samson Lukovic fighter, but once the PBC get their claws into you, you tend to stick around. Isak Cruz, maybe. I know he's fighting on the Spence Crawford undercard. That would be an interesting fight. He's number 8 with the WBA. If he gets another couple of wins or so, would it be too out of the question to see him put in against maybe Frank Martin, maybe even Tank Davis? I mean, they put Cruz in against Tank Davis at one point, Matty recently. They put Hector Luis Garcia in with him. They put Rolando Romero in with him. They like a couple of fights in between the big ones. Why not De Los Santos if he gets another big win under his belt?
Yeah, why not? Good fight, good battle of southpaws right there. It'll be interesting to see if De Los Santos is the guy who can finally put together that right combination of using of your length against the much shorter fighter in Davis and controlling it from bell to bell. Barrios had his moments, couldn't close the show on that one. Raleigh even had his moments, but you just feel more and more that Davis was just sitting waiting for that shot the whole time. Like, fuck this guy, I'm going to knock him out. But he's him and Martin could be a really interesting fight. Maybe put him, like I said, Foster the Third would be a good fight. Maybe put him in. Actually popped positive for drugs, so maybe not against Rivera. I'm saying, maybe have a common opponent in there, but we'll see where he goes. But he definitely fits right in there. It's just such a stacked division.
It is indeed a stacked division, 135. Let's hope they all fight each other. But this is boxing, so they probably won't. The third portion on that card, it was the second fight of the night. Yoelvis Gomez going in against Marquis Taylor. Mr. Taylor came in looking very confident, and he carried that confidence through. Really good performance. The judges got it absolutely spot on. I thought he was winning most of the rounds. I had my doubts about Yoelvis Gomez. I was saying about them last week. He lives an undisciplined life outside of the ring. Me and Rob were talking about the sort of the Cubans going over to America and living under the bright lights. He puts on weight in between fights. He doesn't live the life. You got Joe Goosen in the corner talking through an interpreter, which I never think is a good look. Taylor's bodywork was just sapping Yoelvis. And early on in his career, he let the hands go and he just knocked people out. But he showed against Jorge Cota that if you can sort of hang around for a few rounds, you can do a job on him. He got dropped in this one as well. Goosen was admonishing Gomez for stepping out of the clinches with his hands down, and Taylor was just catching him time and time again. Bit of an interesting style from Taylor from Texas. He kind of pushed the jab in, leaned inside, grabbed, worked, kept himself out of danger. He had a cut on the right eye, but it was not an issue in the end. Did you think he was a worthy winner, Mr. Taylor? What do you think of his style and the way he pulled it off?
Oh, very much so. I thought that he was a worthy winner, getting the right end of a decision. As a man who's been brought in as an opponent many times, hasn't always gotten the right end of it. It's a sloppy style. That knockdown was unexpected. Taylor coming in with only one stoppage to his credit. But he's an interesting fighter, and he makes it sloppy. And whenever you think he's not going to work, he works. He just kind of jumps into distance. He's one of those guys you're going to have to feint out of position and take advantage of it there. And I thought that there were places where Gomez did that, but he wasn't able to capitalize too much, and he wasn't able to make it consistent, unfortunately. So back to the drawing board for him, and Marquise Taylor finally getting a chance maybe to get a better opportunity here as he's been coming in as an opponent in so many of these fights. He is a very decent fighter. I don't think he's obviously of title quality or anything like that. But he's definitely a guy who could give some work to some up and coming prospects. He's going to be a good gatekeeper throughout his career, I think, if he keeps at it.
Yeah, I think he will. Maybe in that kind of Emmanuel Taylor sort of mold. Everything with Gomez is just about landing those big shots. Apparently, he was supposed to fight Jason Rosario last November, but he suffered an injured wrist. But as I said before, it seemed to me that he was piling on the weight, I heard. So it might have been a combination of the two. Got dropped. Taylor's not a puncher, but it was more a fact that he was just showing a lot of amateurish traits. And I don't want to write Gomez off too early, Matty, but I mean, is there much hope for him? I agree with you, your sentiment about Taylor. I think he showed enough, and he showed a good engine as well for the 10 rounds, that he can definitely come in and have another chance, maybe like well, not really a Cody Crowley, but something, if he can get a few more wins under his belt, maybe a lower level Johnny Rice or something, he can perhaps get a big shot at some point. But I don't want to write off Gomez, as I said, but if he's not disciplined and he's losing at this level, you could see him maybe splitting with Goosen. Is there a massive future for him if he's just going to get all fat all the time?
Nah, I think people are hoping that he'd have a good career, or at least be a tight list kind of level like a Lara or one of them. But he's going to be a Sullivan Barrera, unfortunately, Steve.
A Sullivan Barrera type, maybe. Although Barrera did okay for himself at a point. He eventually found out that Bivol was just a bit too much for him. The guys like Andre Ward as well. Somebody mentioned something in the chat I was going to pick up on there. MB, yeah, Clay Collard was a better name, and look what Gomez did with him. Yep, that's right. I think that was on Christmas Day, that fight. He just overwhelmed him with punches, and that's what he tries to do against people. And if you show a bit of nuance and a jab and sort of stifle him in the early rounds, as I was saying, MB, I think he looks like a kind of guy who's going to struggle. He's an on-top fighter. If he catches you early with those heavy bombs, he will get you out of there. But if not, then he is in trouble, and I think he just met his match last night. Sometimes trainers just can't do anything with these guys. Talking about Joe Goosen, he was a good trainer at one point. Wasn't it? Was it which were the brothers? With the Ruella's brothers, wasn't it? Gabe and Raphael. He went with throughout his career. Obviously, Diego Corrales as well. You can do a job with certain fighters, but other guys just can't respond to.
I mean, you have people who are just like incredibly talented, and their work ethic is going to ultimately be what separates them. And then you have guys who can, be better than they are because of their work ethic. And then you just kind of have guys who aren't that good. You can't polish a turd. It is what it is.
Can't polish a turd. It is what it is. Talking of polishing turds, me and Matty are here polishing away on this Sunday evening, episode 5:30. Let's have a look through the chat and see who's hanging around before we go on to Floyd Schofield, Lewis Nery, and whatever else was happening. We've got Ryan Ormerod in the chat there. Shout out to him. He's talking about slags, enjoying himself. Lithgow 1983, he's there as well. Johnny, formerly known as Horsecock Nelson. Michael Thompson's here, so is Jim McDonald Boxing. Matt Slippery Butters sliding away in the chat, one of the nutters. John Trounson, shout out to John. MB, always with us. Lewis Kelly's here as well. Lesser spotted these days. Mark Stanton, welcome to you. Just scrolling on up. Dale Baker's there making a nuisance of himself. Andrew Thickett over on Facebook, representing us over there. Paul Raftery is here. Ben Russell. Brian Badonde. Ant B says Boots versus Virgil Ortiz would be a good fight. Absolutely. Chris Butler's there. Shout out to him. See if there's any other names. AP is with us. Just scrolling on up here. James G. Welcome to you, sir. Anybody at the bottom here wants a shout out? Let it be known right now. If not, let's move on to the next part of the action. I only managed to watch this one just before we went live, actually. Matty, Lewis Nery getting a win over Froyan. I'm going to butcher this on. Is it Saladar? Froylan Saladar?
Saladar, yeah.
Yeah, their heads clashed early on in the fight. It was one of them fights where I put it on and I noticed with about 10 minutes, it had like 10 minutes to go at the end of the video, and I thought, here we know what's going to happen here. Nery's going to get rid of him, but Saladar was letting the right hands go in the first round, doing his best. Bit of a veteran, fought for a world title in the past. Nery was doing his shoulder roll as best as he could. The heads clashed after about a minute. There was blood pissing down Nery's face. He said, right, let's get out the first round here. Stop taking those right hands. Just absolutely piled the pressure on Saladar. And he crumbled a little bit, didn't he, really? He knocked him down about 3 times overall before the referee called it off. Not much we can take from this. I think he deserved a fight like this after the Hovhannissian he fought in his last one. Absolute cracker. Love him or hate him, Matty. Lewis Nery is going to be in exciting fights. Whether he's blasting people out, whether he's getting blasted out himself, going back and forward. He is an exciting fighter. And a second round knockout last night, can't really complain as he moves back towards world title level.
Yeah, he, the little steroid cheating fuck is good bang for your buck, isn't he? I mean, at the very least, Nery is absolutely entertaining. He's rarely in a boring fight, and we'll see him as he comes up and maybe gets another chance at a title. Like I said, I have a feeling that Tapales is going to have to give up one of his belts or something if they're going to do an Akmadaliev rematch. So we'll see if that happens. And Nery might be able to find his way into a title match in there, and we'll see who he fights. I think, in the grand scheme of things, like Luis Nery is a very good fighter, but I kind of think of him in kind of like that B plus, area. And I know it's kind of weird when you're, grading fighters, but there's a lot of guys that he can beat, and with the right punch, because he can bang, he can definitely beat fighters who are technically better than he is. But he's not quite at that level of some of the better guys in the game. But we'll see. I mean, as with Inoue Fulton happening, that could end up fracturing the belts if Fulton wins that, and because he's going to head north to 126 probably. So there's a lot of opportunities for Nery in there. It just matters on what fight gets made.
Yeah, let's quickly look at some of the possible opponents for him. So Inoue Fulton's going ahead. Inoue's moved up. Rais Salim's highly rated on Box Live, but he has that loss to Sam Goodman. Obviously, Sam Goodman himself has pushed on up. Luis Nery against John Riel Casimero. There's no title I can see that would sort of fit in there, Matty, but him against Casimero would be a banger. Good clash of styles, you'd imagine. Or Akhmadaliev, as you mentioned as well. Maybe those two going at it. Put Nery in those exciting fights. You can bully him. You can push him back, as Figueroa did, but he will keep on banging, as he showed against Hovhannissian. So someone like a MJ or a Casimero would definitely bring the fireworks, whether there's a belt on the line or not.
Yeah, I think those are good fights to make there. And both of those guys are a little bit closer to his size than Figueroa was. I mean, that was one of the reasons why Figueroa beat him and why I was so adamant that he would. Not only is Figueroa active and a good puncher, but he was just freaking huge at 122 pounds, Steve. Just huge. And that's obviously why he's at 126 pounds now, and he beat a very strong featherweight in Mark Magsayo. So, but yet, Nery against a guy who's not just an absolute physical beast at the weight is a good fight. And, honestly, if we ended up seeing, after all the smoke clears, I don't know what happens and how, but Inoue against Nery, that's a good fight too. I'd like that.
Yep, Inoue against Nery, yeah. Stick him in, get the drug cheat. The drug cheating fuck, as Matty refers to him as, a bit of a beating there, hopefully. Right, let's move on from Luis Nery. We're going to be talking about AJ Dillian White rematch very shortly, so you can throw your 2 pence worth into the chat if you wish. I was trying to find out the real heavyweight of the weekend. Thursday evening, Christopher Lovejoy went in against Marcelo Leandro da Silva over 8 rounds, but unfortunately BoxRec does not have the result up for that one. So I cannot report to you whether Lovejoy got the job done or not. Let's just assume that he did.
God, you'd figure someone as important as Christopher Lovejoy, they'd be right on top of that.
You would think so. Well, you wouldn't want Lovejoy on top of you, Matty. Maybe the other way around is not too bad, but I'll tell you what, he'd crush you. He's about 22 stone.
He's a big man, and probably right now he's on top of somebody. God bless her soul.
Absolutely. Shout out to Lovejoy. Friday night, I'm not sure how much you saw about this one, Matty, because we didn't mention it off air. Eddie over with his glasses on. Let's get a picture of Eddie. Actually, we've got it for Bellew of the Week, but we'll put it on here just to remind us. There he is with Frank Smith with their little Harry Potter glasses. Good Bellew of the Week coming up later on for that one as it happens. Diego Pacheco in the main event with a 4th round knockout over Manuel Gallegos. WBC USA super middleweight title on the line, WBO International as well. A few decent scraps on the undercard. We'll get to them shortly, or not. As for the main event, Matty, did you manage to catch anything of this? 19-1-1 Gallegos, bit of a puncher. He'd stepped up in class before. Looked a bit tubby in the pre-fight photo, so I was wondering about how he was getting himself down in weight. Fought to a draw against Richard Van Sicklen in his last fight, who I saw recently, and you might have done as well on Showbox, losing to Juan Carrillo on the Friday evening. Anyway, Gallegos...
Good fight, that.
Yep, very good fight. Another good Showbox fight. Gallegos was a good opponent. No qualms with the matchmaker here. Going in against Pacheco, I thought Pacheco was really good. He used the small ring very well. It was like a 16-foot ring. He didn't run. He used his jab. He picked his shots really well. The body shot at the end was an absolute cracker. I was really impressed with Pacheco. Not sure he's the future of the super middleweight division, as Eddie said, or he's ready for the big boys just yet, but he's moving along just nicely. I don't know if you saw this one or not, Matty, but I was impressed.
Yeah, I like Pacheco. He's a good offensive fighter, and I mean, at his early point in his career, he's done some amazing things. As a non-title holder, he has already headlined a card in the UK. So good. God, when was that, Steve? That was a few months back. I'm trying
Against
to remember
Jack
what.
Cullen.
There's something got pulled off of that card, and he ended up in the main spot
That's
there.
right. That's
right. Yeah. So he's had an interesting little run here. You just know that they're protecting Edgar Berlanga. It's just a damn shame that we won't see that, because I think Pacheco against Berlanga or Pacheco against Munguia, who should probably just move up as well. Both of those are potentially really, really good fights, evenly matched in size. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And I don't want to dismiss this win, because I think Van Sicklen's actually a pretty decent fighter. I mean, in this kind of little triangle of discussion we've had going around, Van Sicklen, I think that he's a decent measuring stick from what I've seen. He's not a bad fighter. That fight against Carrillo you were mentioned there, he tasted the canvas, but he also sent him to the canvas. So tough enough fighter. So I think this win is a good win for Pacheco at this point, but they've got to try to find a way to maneuver him into some sort of a secondary title, as Canelo's, has all of the belts right now and just kind of does what he wants to do. So.
Yeah, Matt Butter says, I really like this Pacheco. Definitely a good one for Eddie Stable. You referenced as well there just quickly. Berlanga, it's going to be tough to know what they're going to do with him. They're not going to put these two together, obviously. Eddie's keeping his stable going as best as he can, picking up decent fighters. Pacheco looks like a standout. Berlanga, I don't really know what they're going to do with him. I think they were trying to make that Puerto Rico-Mexican clash with Canelo, trying to keep Canelo around. I think Pacheco's name was even thrown into the Canelo sweepstakes, which shows just that Canelo needed to move on. There was nothing for him at DAZN. But if Berlanga's the future, then Eddie's going to have to get making those signings. I think Matty, the likes of Andy Cruz and that, making his debut soon as well. And one of Eddie's shows, it might be next week, actually, in fact.
Yeah, and we can talk about that when that's going to be on the Baumgartner card. We can talk about that when it comes to it. But yeah, he's got to I guess he can kind of protect him. But yeah, I mean, we were just talking with PBC with their people at 147 too. Like, you got to kind of, give us some good fights at this point in time, because, the boxing's kind of in a bad period right now. And I don't think they're doing any favors by not at least leaning into the idea of, well, let's try to find a way to keep the people who are still investing their money in the sport happy. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But you see some fights that pop up that'll catch you by surprise. And I think there was one on the undercard that we'll obviously get to here in a second. But they're still good fights if you're willing to look for them. But these guys like Pacheco, get them in with the names, man. Give me Munguia, give me Berlanga, give me something like that, and it'll probably produce the goods.
As for the undercard, I'm not sure how much you saw of it. I'll just briefly flash over it. I watched all of the undercard, actually. Ferdy Pacheco Jr., the younger brother of Diego, went in against Oscar Arias, getting a nice win there. I was really impressed with Nadar Aguilar. He stopped Isaias Ortiz, Eduardo Hernandez as well. He's 34-1 now with 31 knockouts. Rocky Hernandez, really good puncher. His only loss was to Roger Gutierrez when he stepped up back in 2019. He's been building himself up nicely, and Eddie seems to have taken a shine to him. And the Jonathan Rodriguez Israel Gonzalez fight, I must admit I was only really watching this in the background, but it looked like a really good scrap, and they both seemed very respectful of each other. They fought to a draw. But
yeah, that's the one you should have been paying attention to, Steve. Yeah, that was a hell of a good fight on that one. Yeah, it's just good back and forth action on that one. Each guy definitely had an argument for winning that fight. Just round after round, they're pretty back and forth. Lots of swing rounds, and there only a small handful of them were clearly for one guy or the other. The draw was totally reasonable on that fight. And if they wanted to roll that one back again, I would definitely be for it. Trying to think who who Gonzalez might have been in with recently, but he was in a decent fight with a title holder somewhere along the way.
Didn't he fight? Was it Chocolatito he fought at one point? Did he? I think he might have done.
Yeah, but then that would be two Gonzalez's in the same fight, wouldn't it have been?
Yeah, that's right. No, they did. No, they did.
Did
they?
They
fought in 2020. Yeah, they fought in 2020.
Okay,
I
was thinking, I'm like, there's no way, was there? Okay. Yeah. And then he was in against with another Rodriguez. So just Gonzalez's and Rodriguez's all over the fucking place, Steve.
I know these Mexicans need some new surnames, man. They're causing me a lot of stress.
It's hell. How can you remember? You're like, no, that can't be true. Gonzalez. Am I imagining that? No, you're right. So yeah, he's good bang for his buck. He was trying to get back in the title mix for this one, and I think either guy, if in a short notice opportunity, should be able to jump in, and you wouldn't complain. I think they've proven their worth. But I would like to see him run it back. Fun fight.
Yep, fun fight. Let's run it back. We have a comment coming from Marcus Bellinger, our unofficial Asian correspondent. I'm going to read that out shortly. We've gone through Pacheco. We'll talk about the Floyd Schofield, Jojo Diaz card as well. Just me and Matty tonight. The gruesome twosome. Andy's away on his week ban. Ozzy's off playing cricket. Hopefully, Rapping Rob Kelly will be able to join us at some point if he can. Marcus sent this in to us. He says, "Hey lads, hope all's good. Not sure if this bout slipped by without you knowing. In case it did, especially for Steve and Rob. It did, in my case, slip by, actually. TJ Dehaney got a fourth-round stoppage win over Kazuki Nakajima in Japan last Thursday, the 29th of June, to win the WBO Asia Pacific Super Bantamweight title. Also, you mentioned Jalilov on last Sunday's show, and he said after the World Amateur Championships in Tashkent in May that he would try and win another Olympic gold medal in Paris before fully committing to the pro scene. Not sure if the top-rank deal changes things, but the Asian Games, which is an Olympic qualifier, is coming up in September, so that may tell us something. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Marcus. Feel free to speak on TJ Dehaney briefly if you want, Matty, and he's doing good things over there, mate, carving out a really good career for himself, even after holding the world title, especially on Jalilov. People have mentioned this before. I'm no amateur boxing expert, but what's your opinion, Matty, on them sort of moving between the amateurs and the pros, something they wouldn't have done in the past, signing with Top Rank, saying he wants to fight in the Olympics? It all feels a bit weird to me.
It's all stupid when they blurred the lines between the amateurs and the pros. They fucked up the sport. You shouldn't be able to go back and forth. Once you're a pro, you should be a pro. And if you decide you want to go back to the amateurs, you should have to undergo a probationary period before that can happen. It's ridiculous. They're treating it it's broader in combat sports, Steve. And I think my big problem with this is so many of these quote unquote amateur events have purses. Well, how is it fucking amateur then? It's just different rules boxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like you have a lot of these, fighters that are, that sometimes box. They might do MMA. You got some people that do Muay Thai, and sometimes they might box or compete in MMA or something of that nature. I was watching a bare knuckle card, and it was from England, and one of the fighters, his last name was Fox, and his boxing record was like 13-3 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and he just fucking wrecked this guy, And I think it's this real problem, and the lines of combat sports are blurring, and because unless you're one of the people that's getting paid big money, the purses are so small, it's forced these guys to go into weird ways where they're competing in multiple sports in the same year, and it's odd enough as it is. But when it's amateur and professional boxing, I think that's wrong. If you want to go kick someone in the shins in Thailand on your free time, go ahead. But when you're a fucking pro boxer, you can't box in the fucking Olympics. Give me a break.
Well said. Can't box in the Olympics. John Trounson says, I thought there is no boxing at the next Olympics. Yeah, I think they eventually sort of worked out a deal or something. It's the whole thing is just who knows what's going on in the boxing world from week to week. That's why we're here, to not know things, and you're here in the chat to keep us right, or in the YouTube comments. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe, or hit the thumbs down if you don't like what you're hearing. That's absolutely fine as well. We're not going to come and beef with you. There was some beef settled last night in the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. Oscar De La Hoya, again, putting on a good card over in Texas there. Eric Tudor on the undercard getting an eighth round win over Reggie Harris Jr. Decent fight this. Harris was dropped, came forward, threw a few shots, had a go. Tudor, as I mentioned last week, really liking the look of him, throws the jab really nicely, sets up his shots nicely as well. Marlon Esparza getting a majority decision win over Gabriela Celeste Alanis I thought Alanis did pretty well, actually. The scores did not necessarily reflect that, apart from Lisa Jampa.
Shit scorecards, good fight, though. Good fight.
Absolutely. Agree with that. WBA, WBC, and WBO flyweight titles were on the line there. In the main event as well, Floyd Schofield, he's only 20 years of age, 15-0 with 11 knockouts. Definitely one to watch in the future. At this packed 135-pound division, as me and Matty were mentioning earlier, I really don't know how Haskell Rhodes managed to make it to the scorecards, but he did somehow. He grabbed, he jabbed, he held on for dear life. He got dropped numerous times. He did his absolute best to get through to the end there. Schofield got cut badly on the left cheek. One to watch, as I mentioned. And Joseph Diaz against Jerry Perez. Perez has shown his level in the past. Diaz often comes in fat. He comes in overweight. But I'll tell you what, Matty, this might not be something that's popular to admit in the boxing world, but I actually enjoy Jojo Diaz fights. They're fun. They're competitive. He always brings a good crowd. He throws a lot of shots. He has deficiencies. He has a bit of engine trouble, but he's skillful and he brings it. I actually really do enjoy watching him fight.
My issue's never been with the entertainment value that he brings to the ring. It's been with his dedication to the sport. And, missing the weight by 6 pounds is just another example of that happening. Jerry Perez gave a decent enough count of himself. Definitely won 3 rounds, in my opinion, maybe 4. But Jojo got the best of it. But there are some really good exchanges in this fight. Diaz definitely getting the best of him, usually being able to pin Perez against the ropes and get his shots off. But Perez definitely had his moments. Each guy, when they were landing multiple punches. Perez looked like he was about done in the 8th and 9th round, and then he just came roaring back in a hell of a display in the 10th round, where I think he probably hurt Diaz a couple of times in that round. So was not excited for this fight when it originally popped up. Was less excited when Diaz missed the weight, but it turned out pretty damn entertaining. So not going to complain.
What else on that card did you manage to catch? I know that you didn't see too much of Schofield, but did you see what about the women and then obviously Eric Tudor?
I didn't see anything before the women's fight. Unfortunately, didn't flip it on, and until then, I just kind of lost track of time there because I was watching the Showtime prelims on YouTube kind of passively. Schofield in general, if I talking about just like kind of clearing the road and making fights with what they have available, Schofield against William Zepeda, love that fight. I would love to see that fight. Schofield he's really talented, but it became clear that there was a huge gap between him and his opponent after the 2nd or 3rd round, so I just flipped it onto the Showtime card. Esparza against Alanis was a very entertaining fight. The scorecards did not reflect how close that was. I think it was probably 96-94 either way, if not a draw. The draw card was really the only thing that was fair. I think it was an even card. Maybe it was for Alanis, but the 97-93 card I didn't even think was really in there, let alone that 99-91. And the fact that the commentary crew was able to pick out who they thought would have an absurd scorecard before the fight even went to the cards is very, very telling. Need to be picking out these judges a little bit better. It's getting very, very ridiculous. I'm not arguing that Esparza didn't win the fight, but to not give any credit to her opponent is just ridiculous.
Well said, Matty. Matt Butters, another Matty. There's plenty of Matties available tonight. He says, I'm not sold on Schofield at all, to be honest. I know it's early, but I'm seeing red flags. Right. I'm sure there is, at least from the highlights that I saw. And MB jumps in. He says, I saw a few minutes of Schofield. He was beating up a midget, to be honest. So shout out to all the midgets who might be listening out there. If anybody enjoys a bit of boxing writing, by the way, jump on over to swboxing.substack.com. That's my little Substack that we got going at the moment. So I said at the beginning of the year I was going to write an article every week to keep me disciplined, and I've managed to do that so far. We're going into the second week of July, so I'm keeping things going. So if you're able to read or not and you just like pretty pictures, jump on over to swboxing.substack.com and subscribe and read the shite that I put out every week. Right, talking to people putting out shite, Matty, I know you're a DAZN subscriber and proud of it. I'm not sure if you're going to have to pay any.
I never said that.
For this one, August the 12th, DAZN pay-per-view. Apparently, if you pay a monthly subscription, you still have to pay a pay-per-view price of some description, maybe of £10-15 or something. On top of it, History of Violence, it's called, which is quite a good tagline, you have to admit, given the fact they fought in the amateurs and had the fight beforehand as well. Two washed-up gatekeepers, I saw them described as during the week, which is maybe fair or unfair. I'm talking, of course, about Anthony Joshua and Dillian White, August the 12th in the O2 in London. Any interest in this one, Matty? If so, how do you see it going between Joshua and Dillian White?
I have two answers for you, Steve. One is if this is pay-per-view in the United States, I could give less than a fuck. And if it's not pay-per-view, I could barely give a fuck. It's just, I don't know. They're trying to limp Joshua towards one more big payday against Wilder, maybe. This has been brewing for a while. They're both going to be overpaid for this. I don't know what ticket sales are going to be like. If they pack it in, so be it. Christ be with you, my friends. But this is just ridiculous. Dillian White getting another incredible payday that he is not worthy of. Everybody that goes to the fight, have a great time. I do think it could be entertaining, but I just think it's overpaid junk. And if they want pay-per-view in the United States for this, they can suck my hairy balls.
I think to myself, whenever these fighters get to this stage, I'm not saying either of them are shot or anything, but it kind of gets exciting when they maybe lose a step, lose a bit of sharpness. I wonder how much White's got left because they had the respective performances against Jermaine Franklin. I think AJ can still do what he needs to do without going to war against White. I see him getting on the jab, holding, grabbing when he needs to, throwing the right hand when he needs to. I think White's still got enough of a beard about him, and Joshua's maybe lost the killer instinct enough that they can both make the respective 12 rounds. I'm thinking Joshua decision at the moment on this one, Matty. I think Dillian will always have a go because that's in his nature, but I just think he's not washed, but he's kind of done, and Joshua has the skill set and still just that enough hunger to be able to outbox him to a decision. That would be my hunch at the moment.
I don't think you're incorrect, but if it does go 12 round, it's going to be an utter stink fest, Steve. And I don't think anybody's going to be happy that they paid for it when that's done.
No, Chris Butler says AJ will win on points in a dull fight. Yeah, I think something like that as well. I think White might have a go for the first 3 or 4, and then it'll just get into that rhythm of AJ jabbing him, grabbing him. They kind of get tired as well. And it goes to 12 rounds. Michael Thompson says both have lost 2 of their last 4, no belts, but they're fighting there for their career, so it could be a good one. Well, absolutely. If it gets that last 3 or 4 rounds and there's a lot on the line and the local pride and they're starting to think this is my career on the line here, I'm not going to get another payday. Although, as Matty said, White has made hell of a career for himself, given his skill set. He's talked and fought his way into some absolutely massive paydays, some 6 or 7 pay-per-views over time. Then maybe they will start throwing leather at the end, and then it could become interesting. But I'm not so sure, to be honest. Lithgow 1983 says it's going to be a stink fest unless White finds a punch from the gods. Yeah, well, that could happen. Mark Stanton says, nah, he will take a 12-round cross-arm guard against the Joshua that won't engage. That's the kind of fight that I'm expecting as well. Matt Butters says AJ just needs to land the uppercut. Yep, it was the uppercut that did for White in the past. White was the first man to really buzz him. Was it in the 2nd round? 3rd round, maybe? And then, of course, there was the whole fuss after the 1st round when someone jumped in the ring and there was an absolute melee. I don't really know how much you remember the first fight, Matty, but White was pretty much out of shape, but he did give him a good run for his money for the first 4 or 5.
Yeah, it was a decent enough fight. If you recall, for some reason they had already fought twice in the pros, but that's just something I imagined in my head. Maybe it was a premonition of tonight, and I got Edgar Casey shit going on, and I just can't accept that I can see the future, and I think I see the past. And I just think, was I high at the time? No, I was seeing into the future. It's God. Now I forget what fucking question you asked, Steve, at that point.
Never mind. The first it's all about DMT for you, Matty.
God, that's exactly what I need, or some ketamine. But the first one, it was good. I mean, I think that's part of why the American audience kind of was able to latch on to AJ for a little bit, was the fact that he was in some pretty entertaining fights early on. And then the Klitschko fight was an absolute banger. But, the thing about it, as Butters said, I think it was Butters that said that he just needs the uppercut. Where has the AJ uppercut really been since the Klitschko fight? I mean, honestly,
Pulev maybe a little bit. He landed.
Yeah, the Pulev, yeah, but it's such a great weapon, but ever since Ruiz, he's just been afraid to pull the trigger on it, hasn't he?
Mm. Yep.
So it's, like, yeah, I agree with you. I think that uppercut it could definitely do the business for him. I mean, because look at what happened to White against Fury. That uppercut absolutely wrecked him. But AJ's got to throw it first, and I just think he's so afraid of getting caught that he just might not do it. I think that uppercut very well could have given him a win against Usyk too. I don't think that believing he had a chance in the first or second time they fought was out of bounds, but he had to throw that punch to make it happen, and he didn't. So we'll see. It's if he throws the uppercut, probably going to win by knockout. If he just sticks by the jab, it's going to be a shitty decision. I don't see White winning this fight outside of some shot like Povetkin landed against him.
Yes, it's 6 minutes past 9, everybody here. Matty's dropping Edgar Casey references. You never thought we'd hear that on the pod, but go and
I'm
look
surprised you know who Edgar Casey is.
Oh, I know who
too,
Edgar
Steve.
Casey is. Don't worry about that.
That motherfucker was wrong, but
prefer Willie Casey, but I know all about Edgar Casey, absolutely. Jim McDonald Boxing says snooze fest on points, so it is. Johnny says, I just think White was never that good and he's shot to bits now. Hopefully to see a more aggressive AJ. Would love to see AJ go out there and bang him out in about 6 rounds. That would be fantastic. Dean White was bouncing around in the gold jackets as Em Lithgow in the first fight. He was, absolutely. Let's see. There was a question here for Matty somewhere thrown in. For Matt Butters, actually, no less. He says, was AJ ever popular in the US, Matty? He always seemed like a UK phenomenon. As a US citizen yourself, you'll be able to answer this better than me, but I would probably say no.
As I touched on, I think he had a few good fights early in his career that definitely circulated in the United States, especially the Vladimir Klitschko fight, because it was a good fight with some good shots landed, a heck of an ending. And obviously, people knew Vladimir Klitschko at that point in time, and there's just overwhelming interest in the heavyweight division. There's 3 things that Americans actually kind of like in heavyweight boxing, and it's a big black American. Well, AJ's 2 of those things, so he's kind of all right by American audiences. And he had a bit of a following outside of just boxing audiences where, he'd get a little bit of mention by a Stephen A. Smith, et cetera, casually, maybe when he's just talking sports. But he'd never, but the most known that he ever was by U.S. audiences wasn't in his best place. It was when Andy Ruiz stopped him. So that kind of wasn't the good look for him. And so, I don't think people would have gotten to know him as much had Ruiz not stopped him, honestly, but that totally derailed his career. And then the second one, nobody really seemed to care about it too much because it was a boring fight.
Yeah, I think that did unfixable damage, really, because it was the big coming out party in 2019. I think it was maybe around Christmas time? I can't quite remember. But he was to fight Jarrell Miller, who obviously popped for steroids. Then he ended up with Ruiz, ended up losing the fight. It was supposed to be DAZN's big launch and coming out party. And it did AJ, Matchroom, DAZN's presence in the US absolutely no favors whatsoever. I think things couldn't have gone any worse for them. And I've been one of their biggest critics, as listeners of this podcast will well know, for many years. But that was unfortunate. The whole turn of events there did no favors to any party, as Matty referenced. John Trenson says, if White can catch him like he did in the first fight, it will send him into his shell this time. Yeah, we'll end up with an even worse fight there, won't we? They are killing it with pay-per-view. It's a chance to get fans engaged with AJ again, but the cost is ridiculous. Chris Butler says, I think AJ went for it and tried hard in the Usyk second fight, just not good enough. Yeah, he did. No, he absolutely did in the second fight. He really did go for it and pushed Usyk for close. Hurt him with the body shot in about the 7th round as well, if I recall correctly. MB says, clarification, here we are. If you aren't a subscriber to DAZN, you can't order the pay-per-view. So it's £20 to sub for the month and then another £27 to watch the fight. My God, so you'd be shelling out £47 that month to watch the fight. I don't know who's in charge of the business dealings over there, but my God. Anyway, less said about that, the better. Can't see this doing 800,000 buys. Hopes it will.
DAZN is going to find out why the illicit drug trade still exists. Make the cost so fucking ridiculous. But anyways, it's just they're I don't know how the UK people are going to react to this one. It's getting a little ridiculous. And as far as the broader pay-per-view market goes, Steve, I think I'd really be watching what the numbers are like for Canelo, because he's not fighting anyone that the fans really wanted to see him fight. It's 2 weeks after the Mexican Independence holiday. So if this Canelo pay-per-view flops really, really bad stateside, that flops really, really bad in the UK. I think it spells some really bad stuff for boxing going into 2024.
I think as well, I know everybody keeps saying, oh, streaming's the future, which obviously we all know it is, but DAZN again seem to be a little bit ahead of their time. Nobody's a fan of pay-per-view, myself included, and we're always saying, oh, we need to get rid of the pay-per-views, but you can see why they still do it, because it adds that gravitas. I know it's been watered down to piss water now because they've had some shocking fights on it, but it's an event, which is why the streaming has never really caught on. Like the older Americans, I would be one of them, obviously in their 40s and 50s and whatever, with disposable income, watching the fight on pay-per-view, whether it's a Floyd, a Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya, now Canelo, is an event. Everybody comes round, you get the barbecue on, you get a few beers, you throw in a few quid maybe for each other to sort of pay for the $80 or £80 or whatever it is. Over there, and you all get together to watch that fight because it's the big fight, it's the big pay-per-view event, which is why it never seems to have caught on just yet with DAZN, but that's why there is a place still for pay-per-view with that demographic, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, there is still a place with that one, and the big demographic stateside, Steve, is the Mexican American audience really keeps this sport going. That's why the Cinco de Mayo show was such a big deal. And Floyd Mayweather just said, I don't give a fuck if I'm Mexican or not. I'm taking that date. And same with Mexican Independence Day. They're very, very important to this audience. And interestingly enough, I was listening to a podcast, and I can't remember if they said just Mexican Americans or if it was broadly Hispanic Americans. The numbers are so crazy. I'm going to have to think broadly Hispanic Americans. But they said that that in the last, I think it was 10 or 12 years, that if Hispanic Americans were their own country, that they would have the third largest economic growth out of any country in the world. It's insane.
Wow.
They're the last group that really loves their boxing. They're a growing segment of our economy. And it's not just greater in numbers. They're grabbing a bigger piece of that pie per individual as well. You look the collapse of Bud Light because they decided to send a beer can to a trans artist or whatever the fuck Dylan Mulvaney is. Not saying the trans, whatever the fuck they are. I'm saying whatever she does for a living.
No, well said.
But I hate you, Steve. But so now what is the most popular beer in the United States? Modelo, which is originally a Mexican beer, which was brewed by Czechoslovakian immigrants, interestingly enough, but it's owned by the same company as Bud Light. So people are making their stands, and the Mexican audience, and they go to fucking Modelo. So you got this big Mexican beer going, huge chunk of the American beer economy at this point in time, and so we have to focus on them on this side. And honestly, I guess we'll kind of see how big they are when their people aren't involved. I skipped over it. I guess the curiosity is also, what's it going to look like for Crawford Spence? What are those numbers looking like? How's the attendance going to be? And you're going to have two boxing Asylum of people on the ground there. Donnie has been able to get a suite at a hotel based on his gambling history, and he said, "Man, you ought to come on down. So even if I can't get a ticket to the fight, I am going to be in Vegas for Crawford Spence." So we'll see how that is compared to I'll be able to compare it against Canelo Khan when I was out there. Hopefully Donnie and I don't have a story as crazy as Tommy and I have. But it's curious. I think you have some things coming up this year that on both sides of the pond. Actually, let me say this, on multiple sides and multiple oceans here, that are going to show what the future of boxing is this year. Does this AJ pay-per-view flop? Does Crawford Spence flop? Does Canelo flop if he doesn't up the level of competition here? And as we get towards the end of the year, is that Saudi money going to see a return, or are they just investing at a loss like they are like with Live Golf and now with the PGA merger? It's there's a lot going on in boxing right now other than just fights that involve the entire future of this sport. And we should really be paying attention to the numbers for the last 6 months of this year.
Yep, good point. There's a lot going on in boxing at the moment. We're stretching this out like a Devon Alexander Ennis, me and Matty, 9:15 on this Sunday evening, episode 5:30. Hit a like for the two boys chatting away as best as they can. I can hear thunder outside, Matty here, rumbling away in the background. Maybe a precursor for our episode tonight.
Now the skies are talking to you, Steve. That they're speaking. That they know what's happening in boxing. It's ominous, quite ominous.
Yeah, certainly ominous. Talking of ominous, next Saturday evening, the 15th of July, Eddie Hearn is back in America at the Masonic Temple. The Freemasons will be out in force in Detroit, Michigan.
Great. Now I get to hear the fucking Nutter's opinion on that.
Exactly. Shout out to the Freemasons or the Bean Masons, perhaps over there. Some interesting names on the undercard. Literally interesting names. Jericho O'Quinn. That's quite the name. He's going in against Carlos Mujica. Andy Cruz, as we mentioned earlier, now based in Florida, the Cuban super lightweight who Eddie says will beat absolutely everybody, is making his debut against the battle-hardened Juan Carlos Burgos, who's never been stopped, and he's been in a bit of a who's who.
What a debut pro fight, Steve.
Fantastic.
What a day. Like, I don't care how many fights that Burgos has lost over the last recent years. He is competitive unless it's against the tops of the tops, like the Keyshawn Davises. He's not laying down for anybody, as durable as can be. Talk about throwing a guy in the deep end. It's not like Lomachenko and Orlando Salido level, but it's as close to something like that as I've seen. They have a lot of faith in this guy. Hopefully they're not throwing him in a little bit too quick, where you got a guy who knows the pro game and is going to make the amateur uncomfortable, as a guy like Burgos might be able to do. Very ballsy move. We'll see how it works out.
Well, oh my God, it's lightning and thunder and
is.
lightning.
Great. Well, now it might just end up being the boxing asylum with Maddie when it's all said and done.
Exactly. I might die. I think the difference is that Burgos, as tough and rugged and experienced as he is, it is 10 rounds, but he tends to be a guy who's maybe going to go the rounds and fiddle around Cruz, whereas Salido would come and put the pressure on and throw shots and make things difficult. I'm not saying Burgos is a pure survivor, but I don't think he'll be coming forward as much as many people think, and Cruz will win handily enough, over the 10 rounds, I think. I don't think Burgos has as much sort of energy and enthusiasm as he maybe once did.
No, I wouldn't think so, but I think he's also realizing what an incredible opportunity this is for him, and it's very rare for a pro to be able to, I think is this a 10-round fight too, Steve?
Yeah, 10, yeah.
I mean, he's got a lot of time to pull out all the tricks in the book, and we'll see what he's willing to do in this one. I'm interested in this fight. I think this is probably the most interesting fight of the upcoming weekend, maybe by a long shot.
Michael Thompson there throwing in a question: who was the last Cuban star that has emerged recently? Q's might be the first breakout one, maybe. Yuriorkis Gamboas is Yuriorkis Gamboa is getting a shout out in the chat. Obviously turned pro in Germany early on. He had the style, didn't he? I think the style makes a lot of difference. The likes of Morel, if they're coming forward with speed and power, throwing a lot of shots, trying to get rid of people, it's more. You can remember that more than the likes of Lara, as skillful as they are. People who, as I said before, the demographic at the barbecues are just going to turn him off. They're not going to watch that.
MB says Rabizi. I don't think Rabizi's there.
Not yet.
There yet. I think the jury is still out on David Morel. So he's got the type of style that people could definitely want to tune in for. So he could be up. Gamboa, I don't think he quite got there. I don't think Lara got there as like a star. I think of a star like things that other people know. So in a lot of ways, I think that boxing is still waiting for a Cuban star.
Yeah, Johnny mentioning Joel Casamayor. Casamayor was a very good fighter. I thought the likes of Acelino Freitas eventually went in with Katsidis, and who else did he fight?
That was a hell of a fight.
Yeah, Corrales,
Yep.
Casamayor was a great fighter.
Didn't he fight Castillo?
Castillo as well at one point. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah,
He was
they
a
were
good
a
player.
hell of a. If you like take Popo, Casamayor, Freitas, and who else did we just say? There was one more we had in there.
Corrales.
Those 4 130 and 135 in that era. That was kind of a cool round robin of fights, man. There was some fucking wars in there.
Floyd was the WBC champion at that time, and Spadafora was the IBF, but unfortunately, we just couldn't quite make those super featherweight fights. Apart from Casamayor Freitas, they were the only two of those cropper champions who fought each other.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It is kind of a shame that some people didn't fight themselves in there. We've all seen, well, and if you haven't seen, check it out, the Spadafora against Mayweather sparring footage. And Paul Spadafora, for me, Steve, he's that guy where I'm just like, why couldn't you keep your fucking head on straight? Because even him, just like drugged up and not taking it seriously, what a solid fighter he was. That fight with Leonard Doran was a fucking was a hell of a battle, and that was him not well either. I mean, he should have been dominating a guy like Doran, and then he came back after prison, drug abuse and all that, and he almost was able to pick off another title at 140 pounds, I think it was, against Johan Perez, working his way up through that. Fought that really close. I think he lost by a point or two on the cards. He could have been in some good fights with that crowd, but that guy, you talk about a guy that just got fucked by drinking drugs, man. A Spadafora, and then he shot his girlfriend, and when she was pregnant, it's a crazy ass story.
Yeah, absolute madman. Spadafora was a very good fighter, though. Back in the day, the drink and the drugs ended up getting to him. He fought Oisin Fagan, actually, a friend of mine and former friend of the pod. He went the 10 rounds, which was a testament to Oisin's toughness. Back to this fight anyway with the Freemasons. Jermaine Franklin's on the card against Junior Anthony Wright.
Oh boy.
Getting a good shot, Franklin, after fighting White and Joshua. Eddie's looking after him. Mark Castro is back in action. He's definitely one to keep an eye on. I'm trying to think the last time I saw him, actually. I can't quite remember, but he's going in against 12-2 Gonzalo Fuenzalida. He's got a nicer box rec photo. Mark Castro, actually. Anyway, the main event of the evening, I'm assuming, is Alicia Baumgardner against Christina Linardato. You can educate me on this, Matty, because obviously I'm no aficionado when it comes to women's boxing. I like Baumgardner. I think she's a character. She can punch a little bit. She's a good boxer. I thought she had a good fight against Michaela Mayer. Unfortunately, these type of fights don't do anything for me because I've seen Linardato in action in the past against Katie Taylor. She fought Pursoon as well, a fight I didn't watch, and I wasn't really that impressed with her. I don't think she has a chance in this fight, apart from maybe a head clash or something. I don't think she can outbox Baumgardner. I don't think she can knock her out. I don't think she can do what is capable and what needs to be done over the 10 2-minute rounds. So for me, this fight's a bit of a damp squib. Am I getting it badly wrong, Matty?
You're getting it badly wrong, Steve, because she's already done it before.
Go ahead.
She inflicted the one loss that on Alicia Baumgardner's resume on her.
There you are. So I'm talking shite, basically.
There you go. They fought in 2018. There's not a lot of footage on that. It was an Evander Holyfield promoted fight. I think it was an 18 or 19. And yeah, it was the little bit that I saw. There was some good exchanges in there. Both gals gave some good work. It seemed like whoever was coming forward was getting the better of it. But Linardato was able to pull out a split decision victory on that one. I was just looking at the stance and how she fought, that there's more poise in Baumgardner in holding her ground and looking for counter shots. Now she fights out of a more athletic stance. There's definitely been some quality changes. I think that she's going to be able to pull out the victory on this one. I do worry that she might burn herself out looking for a knockout. She does seem to look for the big punch a little bit too much, and it can get her in a little bit of trouble at times, and she could lose some rounds on inactivity. But this actually could be a decent scrap. We'll see. But I do expect Baumgardner to exact revenge and write that L on her record.
Good luck to her. Old Baumgardner might turn up in the prediction league, possibly, Matty. I'm not really sure next week if you have any insider knowledge there.
Maybe, possibly. We had our first week just go down here, and unfortunately, Stan Jonas Ortiz wasn't on there. This one could be on there. I'm thinking that we're going to end up having the Donaire fight on there, which the books
is that on? Is that still on?
When did it get canceled?
I don't know. I can't find it on BoxRec, and I was trying to look for it, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat can let me know there. Clash for vacant WBC bantamweight title. Yeah, that boxrec could mean nothing because Lewis Nery fight wasn't on boxrec either. So there's a good chance that this could still be going ahead, and I could be completely wrong there.
You could be. Let's check that one out and see what's going on.
Oh, hang on. Is this on the Frank Martin card?
Yeah, it's headlining that card.
Oh, is it really? Oh, freaking hell! Didn't even know. There you are.
Yeah,
and I'm learning things tonight.
Yeah, and there's some decent fights on that card, which makes up because the fight I was looking forward to on that DAZN card, other than the Andy Cruz, which I thought was good, because if this fight was on it would have been a hell of a good card, was the Richardson Hitchens Montana Love fight. I think Love had to pull out of with injury on that one, and I was looking forward to that one because Hitchens just looks sharp. I think he's definitely could make some noise at 140. So we'll see if they make that one again. But yeah, so that the DAZN card's good, could have been better, but yeah, that Showtime card, it's not bad, Steve.
Well, we're not sure if it's bad or good at the moment because Matt Butters seems to think that the fight between Donaire and Alexander Santiago is in fact off. So we're trying to get clarification here on the wire as best as we can, trying to get the lowdown on this one, Matty. We're not sure.
Well, that would be a shame if that's the case. Let's just see here. No, Nito. Donaire. Cancel. All right.
While you look for that, Ray just threw something in. He said, "Can we get yourself a Marty's opinion on Devin Haney citing Rick Glazer as some kind of credible source or voice of reason in his tweets this week in his back and forth with Shakur?" Well, I will back Ray up on that one. Actually, I tried to get it cut for Belly of the Week, but I couldn't find the actual original group of tweets. But yeah, anybody citing Rick Glazer, I've heard this before in other podcasts. Oh, Rick Glazer said this, Rick Glazer said that. Rick Glazer is not a source. He's never made a fight in his life that I'm aware of. He's never managed a fighter. He's never promoted anything. I don't know what he does in boxing, apart from tweet and show photos of him and the wife having dinners out or something, but he is not a credible source. Anyway, sorry, back to you, Matty.
Everything I can find, Steve, is this is still going on. I just did the Google 7-day search on Donaire, and everything I'm pulling up is just stuff about, just basics of the fight. So I'm not seeing any cancellation.
No cancellation as far as Matty's concerned. Let's park that one to one side and welcome rapping Rob Kelly on the call. The views of Barry Murray, Rob, might not necessarily represent the views of the pod.
God damn it, Steve. We almost got out of here.
He said, when's Ennis going to fight someone with a pulse, Rob?
Yeah, Ennis, as good as he looked last night, I was just thinking that actually, good segue, because I was just thinking, like, even as good as Ennis looked last night, like, he's good shifting stances, he's good power in either hand. He seems to have a very decent chin. It's hard to know how good it is based on the level of opposition. But even with all that, when you shake it up, like, he was still scheduled to be the undercard to Ortiz, Stanionis, who are not fucking megastars, like, you know that way. So they're not like, so it's kind of giving an indicator of how far Boots is down the pecking order when it comes to actually transitioning over and being a star. And I know I feel like I'm talking about this a lot lately, but I learned kind of a long time ago, it doesn't really fucking matter how good you are. It matters how you're able to sell a fight. And Boots Ennis is kind of in the Who Wants Him club. Looks fucking terrifyingly scary almost each time he's out. Knockout power in both hands, granite chin, and nobody knows him. He's not that marketable and hasn't had like a tear up, hasn't had a good fucking television performance yet. Last night would have rose his stock. I believe he's the genuine heir to the 147-pound division as soon as Spence and Bud go north. But yeah, he has his resume. It doesn't stack up at the moment. I don't know if that's necessarily his fault. But I certainly want to see more of him. I think he's fucking really, really entertaining fighter. But at the moment, he's the bridesmaid in the 147 division, isn't he? Between him and Ortiz is going up, so he's definitely the bridesmaid at the moment. So, yeah, I'd like to see him in against better opposition. Not necessarily sure if it's his fault that he hasn't faced that yet, but he's certainly not like a draw to the man in the street or bringing anything to the table in any kind of negotiations or anything like that. So we'll see where things pan out for him. But very good fighter. Love to see him again.
You know, Rob, a friend and I were talking about some of the picks for the baseball all-star game, and some didn't make sense. Don't need to go into details. I know it's, not here nor there, but it kind of came down to this interesting thing, and it's weird when you look at the way people stack up and who gets where and what. Guys like Raleigh getting multiple chances and shit like that, and there's this incentive for them to do it because they keep getting these opportunities, and so you end up with all these fighters who are way more interested in building a brand than they are in building a legacy. And it's not just boxing, it's all sports.
Well, unfortunately, like, the fucking legacy is not going to pay the mortgage. You know what I mean? It's the cold hard cash in the fucking bank that's going to pay the mortgage. And if you look at guys like Rolly Romero and you see him getting opportunities, it's because he's followed the fucking Adrian Broner blueprint. You've seen Steven Espinoza, the fucking head of Showtime, basically saying when Broner was on like a 6-fight losing streak, we will have Broner back on Showtime pay-per-view because he sells fights. He knows how to sell his ass. Like, Boots is a bit quiet. He's not really a trash talker. He's not outspoken. Doesn't do any crazy Tiafimo shit. So he's not like bringing in the casual audience. And fighters kind of have to understand that although we don't want boxing to turn into a circus, you have to kind of bring some kind of value to the commercial table in order to get the opportunities that you deserve. So when you see Rolly Romero cashing out on Showtime pay-per-views because he knows how to fucking open his mouth and sell a fight, it's a cold hard fact of the era that we live in. Like, if you're not interested, you're dead. So boxing is kind of the epitome of that, especially when you see all these cross promotions with fucking fellas that were not even fighters. It seems to come down to a lot more these days, down to the promotion rather than the quality of the fight. So I'm not surprised Raleigh and them are getting an opportunity. Raleigh fights like fucking a white collar novice fighter, but he still manages to get himself pay-per-view fight. So good on him. Like,
getting knocked out by a rehydrated, shrunken head from the Amazon.
Well, yes. For all of Barry Murray's comments, Rob, Ennis definitely passes the eye test with the skills, the speed, the power, the defense, and if
the
ever,
shorts, good shorts,
if ever you wanted a nail in the coffin, Wellings is on the hype train, so there's no hope for Georgia on.
See you later. See you later, Boots. But has he got good shorts too? It takes a certain caliber of fighter to be able to wear the 3/4 length shorts and pull them off, that way. So Boots Ennis is passing that eye test as well.
Yeah, the Tina Turner of boxing.
Absolutely good stuff.
Poor Ike never gets a fucking mention in her fucking building her up, does he, as a star? You always want to talk about the negatives.
We're more interested in Ike Corte. Here, we were talking earlier on about AJ Dillian White. The rematch apparently is going to do 800,000 buys, according to Eddie, Rob.
Fuck, well, look at 800,000. Fool me once. What was that George Bush quote? Fool me once, shame on you.
Fool me twice, never fool a fool again.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, honestly, I find it hard to be critical of AJ and Dillian White having a rematch when fucking Tyson Fury's about to announce that he's fighting someone out of the WWE or the UFC or something like that. Like, honestly, could you imagine a scenario, right, where all the talk in boxing was pointing to an announcement between AJ and Johnny Bones Jones? The boxing public would never forgive him. Like, they'd never forgive him, and they're going to let Fury slide with this fucking Ngannou shit. It's a joke. The heavyweight division is a joke. At least AJ is having a fight. That's all I'd say in his defense. Dillian White again is pulling these fucking diva moves, isn't he? He didn't know whether he was going to will he, won't he sign the contract. He wanted to know about his own commercial value, bringing 10 million to the table. So look at, if these two can, like, Dillian White must be the luckiest guy in boxing. Honestly, I've been saying it for 5 years. I feel like me saying Dillian White made a lot out of the sport for a fella who didn't have an amateur background is my version of Andy saying sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout, because I literally say this all the time. But this fella must be laughing his way to the bank. How is he ended up in another fucking pay-per-view? £24. He's going to get about fucking 5 million out of this one as well. Lose as well, by the way. And listen, it's an interesting fight from a lot of angles, because if Dillian White upsets the apple cart here and gets himself into the Saudi tournament, it's going to be fucking one of the most hilarious things ever. And honestly, if it needs to happen, it might be the best time for it to happen now for AJ, because if AJ is not good enough, which we don't think he is, and he has got mental demons, which we do think he has, and he's going to be forever flawed and broken, then Dillian White's going to be the guy to expose it, right? Because he's going to fucking get to him at some stage, and AJ's going to be gun shy or whatever. And if that happens against Dillian White and White comes out on top, good, get another payday against Deontay Wilder before he actually knocks you into fucking Mercury. But, you know, if AJ loses, it's over. So it's a difficult fucking fight from that point of view. Having said that, I think Eddie would be mad to make a fight with anybody at this moment that he wasn't 100% sure that AJ wins. So I still favor AJ in that fight. But in terms of like being mad or raging about it or whatever, at least they're fucking having a fight. The rest of them are fucking holding up the division, aren't they? So.
Mark Stanton says Fury is going to fight that TV mascot that Wilder sparked out at Wembley.
Yeah, the fella McGregor put in hospital there a few weeks ago fighting him in a rematch.
The fuck's with this violence towards mascots lately? I mean, this is a problem. Does this feel like a problem that needs to be discussed in society today? We're worried about all this, bullshit of people's feelings getting hurt. Well, mascots are getting laid out in front of the masses. I mean, come on.
Well, actually, Matty, funny you should mention that. I once saw a fight between two mascots at a football match many years ago. Wolves were playing Bristol City. It's on YouTube. And Bristol City had these like pigs, the three little pigs, advertising like a double glazing company. And obviously the Wolves mascot is a wolf. So you had the wolf and the pigs in the middle of the pitch. I'm not making this up. It was about 1997, something like that. And they actually had a fight and the wolf punched the pigs. It's on YouTube. I was there at that fight.
Fuck. If you find the link, Steve, please send me that.
I'll try
video,
and do it. We beat them 6-0 that
amazing.
night. That was a good day. That.
Oh my god, that's wonderful.
So there you go. Mascot violence.
I feel like I feel like the mascot's getting knocked out. I don't give a fucking shit about them because if they put their chin in the line of fire underneath a fucking like fluffy mask against a professional fighter, kind of reminds me of that never give a sucker an even break. Fucking, you know what I mean? Fuck you. Take your fucking shot in the face. Fucking moron.
The size of the fucking heads on that thing, though, you can't get your head off the line. It fucking encompasses the line.
Dusty Bin on the ground after fucking getting knocked out by Deontay Wilder. Your man's doing 3-2-1 with the count, buddy. 80s, it's like Peter Kay here on fucking when I'm on fucking 80s references every night. Anyone under 45 having a fucking job? What's going on here?
Let me add, would you guys all together be shocked if boxing just devolves one day and we're watching a fight and somebody's getting waylaid upon in the corner and someone comes in with a steel chair and smacks the other guy across the back? And
we live in hope.
Just,
that way.
I just feel like we're not that far away from it. It starts.
John Fury did fucking smash Francis Ngannou with a chair across the back. Is that what you're saying? Fight it, man.
God honestly, damn it, that would be perfect. Fuck
well,
me,
like
that would be perfect.
If that's happening, all bets are off. Like, you know what I mean? Fucking Fury. Imagine a fighter as talented as Fury, as great as Tyson Fury is, fighting a fucking fella out of the UFC who's never had a fight in his life on pay-per-view as well. Like, unbelievable. Fuck out of here. Seriously, if that was Joshua, we probably spent 2.5 hours giving out about him. I don't see why Fury should escape. That is fucking shocking and embarrassment for this guy who's carried around the lineage, by the way, who's dining out on being the lineal champion when he didn't actually have a belt there for a few years, being the man who beat the man back to fucking Jack Dempsey, fighting a fucking UFC fighter. Give me a break.
Oh, those are the days. There's the link, by the way, in the chat if anybody wants to watch the mascots fighting. So, nice. Yeah, I knew I hadn't imagined it. You know the way sometimes you think you've imagined shit that happened like 20, 30 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Or 20, 30 minutes ago, Matty, in your case.
Yeah.
I like to imagine a lot of shit didn't happen 20, 30 years ago.
Don't even get me down that fucking road. Hey, I would like to say I'm proud of all of us for utilizing the headline function that has been so nicely added by the people at StreamYard. Steve going the professional route saying, visit swboxing.substack.com, and Rob with Bosch Soldier, and me, the President of Mexico.
Yeah. I feel a bit embarrassed with mine now.
He's got in hocking his fucking wares there, has he? I've gone in support of John Fisher. His levels here.
Before you know it, he's going to have a van.
Oh, I would get the old Bosch van on the go. There he is. There's John coming up later in Bellew of the Week. Well, I'll say later. It's going to be quite shortly, actually. Yeah. Get your tickets now. Get your tickets now, everybody. Right, let's move on. Final couple of shows to preview for next week. We've got no comments or questions or anything. We'll brush over this one because there's not really too much to talk about. In Newcastle, Josh Kelly going against Gabriel Alberto Corzo. I was looking up Corzo on YouTube earlier. He's shit. Kelly should hopefully knock him out or beat him on points. Kai's Ashfaq on the undercard going in a 12-rounder for the British title against former pod guest Liam Dillon. He's had a bit of bad luck over the years, Dillon, with people pulling out. He was supposed to fight the Nigerian wealth machine, and he pulled out of the fight. So shout out to Liam Dillon, who is a competitive fighter. Chloe Watson's on the undercard. So Steve Robinson, Oliver Zaran, and a bunch of other names I've never heard of. So we're going to skip over that one. Over stateside, Nonito Donaire fight might be on. It's offer on or offer on or offer on. Who knows what's going on with that one? One fight that is taking place, Matty, well, two fights actually. Elvis Rodriguez, who has actually held a win over Joseph Adorno, who we saw last night. He also holds a loss against Kenneth Sims Jr., going in against Victor Postol, who's a bit of a high-class gatekeeper these days. And also in the, well, I'm assuming it's going to be the main event if you've got no Donaire, Frank Martin, 17-0, going against Hartem Harrod Union. We have done the hard yards, as I said at the top of the pod, Matty. You watched a more entertaining affair involving Artem, as I think I'll call him, at lightweight here. And it's fair to say, Matty, he's not the best fighter in the world.
No, he's not the best fighter in the world. He does have some talent about him, I guess. He's an Armenian national living in Germany. Seems to have gotten a decent home there. I caught one of his fights. God, who the hell did I catch him against?
You saw the Molina fight, which was the bang out one, and I unfortunately watched the Humberto Galindo 10-rounder.
Yeah, so the fight he had against Molina, I think it was a couple of years ago, was a really entertaining fight, actually through 4 or 5 rounds there. And then the 5th round, Hartunian was just getting the snot beat out of him. I mean, just getting leveled, just waylaid pillar to post. And he just uncorks this fucking left hook and lays out Molina. And that was the fight. I really do recommend watching that. It could have been a little bit of an underground classic. Some of you guys probably might have caught that one, but it was a fun little fight. Just trying to get a look at Hartunian and see, maybe if this little undefeated guy has an opportunity to take down someone as skilled and talented as Frank Martin. And my determination after watching it is no, Steve, he doesn't. He has a fairly high guard, but it's quite a bit of ways from his face, and I could see him getting taken out by some hooks around that. I think that if Martin wants to use that Cuban style backhand and add a little bit of a tail onto it, that could be a very dangerous punch. But I just see this one as being probably a knockout win for Martin, given the styles of the fights here. But Hartunian is willing to throw, and he can take a shot, so it could be fun while it lasts. And he does do decent work on the inside. If he can somehow get inside on Martin, he'll probably control that real estate fairly well. But I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity.
No, I don't think so. John Mulhall's had the opportunity to throw in a super chat, €5.99. He says, if I catch you guys live, I'd like to repay for the laughs. Thank you very much, John. We are very much appreciative of that. I've been on the Frank Martin hype train for a while. Shout out to a friend of the pod, Sam Chatwin, who put me on to him around the Jerry Perez fight. Knocked out Perez. He can be hot and cold when it comes to the knockouts. Against tough, grizzled Boston fighter Ryan Kielszewski, he went the distance. He was happy to do that. Against Romero Duno, he got him hurt and got him out of there. Against Jackson Martinez, he dropped him twice in various rounds and then stopped him in the 10th round. And then against Rivera, absolute boxing masterclass, dropped him. Rivera was on the drugs, couldn't do anything against Frank Martin whatsoever. I have seen Hartunian as well, Rob. He's quite slow. Good left hook, as Matty mentioned, but he pulls the head up a bit when he throws the jab. The right hand is really slow. I want to see Frank put the feet down here. Rounds 4 or 5, bang him out, look impressive. I'm definitely a fan of Frank Martin. What are you thinking, Rob, from what you've seen of him so far?
I think I'd like Frank Martin better than Charles Martin. You know that way?
Yeah.
And that's tough for me to separate my Martins like that. But
what about the television show Martin? Were you a fan?
Big fan, obviously, yeah, and a fan of Tisha Campbell's earlier work in House Party as well, Maddie. But no, I think this Frank Martin KO written all over it, hasn't it? Like it's the hype train is marching on. Does a hype train march on? Who knows?
Rolls on, maybe.
Rolls on. The hype train is rolling on when it comes to Frank Martin. He's a boogeyman. Everyone's scared of him. He's exciting. And Steve says he maybe could have more of an exclamation point on the knockouts, but he's able to do what he wants to get the win. And sometimes when fellas take fucking nights off like that just to get 12 rounds in under him, I feel like they're like high IQ fighters who are just, you know, using the opportunity to get rounds under the belt and have a look at different styles and that. Like, so I like Frank Martin so far. I haven't seen anything that's not to like, but I can't see anything other than a fucking highlight reel knockout win here. So I think he's going to get him out of here before round 6.
Yeah, would love to see it. Matt Butters says Frank Martin versus William Zepeda. That would be an interesting fight. Good fighter is Frank Martin. Good fighter leading the way here. Here comes Donny Baseball, the ringside reporter for Crawford versus Spence. Good evening, Donny. Long time no speak. What's going on then? You're looking forward to going over for the big Crawford Spence fight?
Nice egotistical use of the headline function, Donny.
What's happening, Don?
Unmute yourself, Donny.
You have to unmute yourself on an audio medium, Don.
Oh, fuck.
We got you.
Just about.
Hello?
Yep.
Hello, Donny. Yes.
You got me?
Yes, we got
Why
you.
do I feel like I'm talking to someone
I said-
on the
I-
fucking
that headline-
ISS?
Yeah, I know. I live out in the woods just like you. I'm on the mobile.
the mobile phone or in the mobile home?
He said he was on the mobile like as if he's Tony Montana or something. I'm on the mobile.
Come on, Don. This is hardly coast to coast radio. What's happening?
No, not much. I mean, I watched the fights last night. It was a nice, relaxing weekend. First of all, where the hell did that Marquise Taylor come from? He seems like a really great fighter for a guy with 15 wins and 1 KO. Seemed like he had power. He had great movement. I know he came in as the opponent, and he obviously pulled off the upset. I was very impressed.
Okay. What else did you catch last night, Don?
I saw Ennis as well. I watched the Showtime card. I mean, he was impressive throughout, although it was actually surprising to me that it took as long as it did for him to finish his opponent.
Why
10
was
rounds.
that, do you think?
Why?
Why did it take him so long, do you think?
Well, I mean, like a cat playing with a mouse, I mean, if you know you got somebody, sometimes I guess the sense of alacrity and urgency, isn't always there. But, I was impressed with his performance nonetheless. I'm hoping that, when this Crawford-Spence fight does happen, we won't have to wait as long as we did for Crawford-Spence for the winner of that fight to face Ennis. Although, if history is any indication, we probably will. But he's kind of the odd man out in that because he's a little bit younger than those guys. But, he's probably out of the three. I actually think he's the most exciting. I look forward to hopefully seeing that in the future.
Why do you think Ennis's title opportunity hasn't come sooner? What's holding him back, Don?
Boxing politics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also the fact that, it just always takes a little while for the best to face the best. I mean, neither Crawford nor Spence was going to risk the, opportunity to face each other when, you have this like hungry young guy sitting out there and he's dangerous. I mean, you wouldn't fight him either if you knew that there was a pot of gold waiting for you. If you're Crawford, the pot of gold is Spence and vice versa. You wouldn't face some other guy who has a real chance of beating you, in the interim of while you're waiting for that fight to get made.
I still think, as good as Boots is, he needs to generate some currency in order to bring to the table for that fight. Like that fight, like you said, it's fucking high risk, low reward for Spence or Crawford. Although I believe like Crawford didn't turn it down or whatever. If you're to believe what he says in his interviews. He was made an offer for Boots before and accepted it or whatever, but I don't know the politics or the fucking sides of the street, or I can't comment too much on that, but I still think, as good as Boots looks, he has to kind of have a name on it. Like, I think if he beats Danny Onus, say if they made a Danny Onus fight in lieu of Virgil Ortiz going to 54, and say he smashes Danny Onus up, then you could make a claim from being a genuine contender. But as it is at the moment, that's all he is, a contender, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, he does need to deepen the resume a little bit. Yeah, I agree.
Put Boots against Dan Jonas on the Crawford Spence 2 undercard if the rematch does happen.
No, that would be good, yeah.
That'd be the best card that we've seen since Mayweather against Canelo, and that had Matisse against Garcia on the undercard. That would honestly be the best 1-2 punch on the card since then.
Was that Mayweather Canelo or Mayweather Pacquiao? Matisse got Garcia was
yeah, the Mayweather Pacquiao card was junk. It was fucking Lomachenko against some schmuck and
Javante in the night they fucking kidnapped his family or something like that.
So Donnie, what about Crawford Spence? Have you actually got a ticket for it?
Yep. Got a nosebleed seat. Got a flight, and I got a Fountain View room at the Bellagio.
Come on, Donnie.
What'd you say?
Come on.
Yeah, no, seriously. So we're gonna have a good time.
Guess who's mooching a bed?
Hey, Matty, I forgot to tell you there's only one bed.
Someone's getting anal that night.
I'll sleep on a couch, but I ain't taking anything in the behind.
I don't know how to quit you.
I didn't see the big deal with the Bellagio. Everyone was like saying, "Oh, you got to see the Bellagio." I was like, "Oh, there's some fellas in the gondola. Great."
Brokeback Fountain.
With the whatchamacallit? The gondolas are at the Venetian.
Whatever.
Oh yeah.
The fucking same to me. What's the one that has the waterfall? They have the big sprinklers in front of it. The Bellagio, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one with the big water show. Yeah.
Wherever we're at, it's gonna have to go in the shower.
Anyway, back to things that matters in the ring, Donnie, so to speak. What about Crawford and Spence themselves? Who you veering towards at the moment?
This whole time I've been always thinking that Crawford's going to win. But I wonder now, like, because it took some time for the fight to get made, and with, how old is Crawford? Is he 35 now?
35, and Spence
He's only
is
2 years
33.
older than Spence, and he doesn't have a fucking flight in his car under his belt.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have a tragic accident under his belt, part of his resume. But I don't know. I mean, Spence is longer. He's lankier. I mean, he could throw from a lot of angles. I mean, and also too, I mean, you also have to wonder, and I know that Steve is one of the people I believe anyways who believes this, but I mean, Crawford's resume is a little sparse because he was always stuck on the top ranked side of the street when all the best fighters in his division were under the, Al Heyman PBC banner. That plus the age, I don't know. I mean, and that's what I think what makes it like a great fight. I mean, I still think they're both in their prime. I think that, if Spence loses also, he's probably going to use the weight as an excuse, even though he's got a nutritionist in camp. And, I mean, because he's not long for that weight. And credit to him, though, for fucking staying at that weight and not trying to escape this fight by running up to 154.
I love the two of them. I tell you what, right? I agree with you that maybe Crawford's resume at 147 is probably questionable. Up to that point, I don't think it is, but I still don't think there's anybody on Spence's resume that Crawford wouldn't have beaten and beaten well. So
I agree. I
kind of think that
answer is that I like Crawford mostly because I think that when he can't get it done from the orthodox stance, that he can switch southpaw, and he's equally as good from either stance. So if you've got somebody who can throw from the kind of angles that he can throw, like there's literally not a punch in the world that Crawford cannot throw, because he can throw from any angle, because he can switch, easily from one stance to the other. That's a hell of a dangerous man to prepare for. And when you pack the kind of power that he does, I have to think that he's going to catch something. He's going to catch Spence with something that he doesn't see coming. And when Crawford gets people hurt, he finishes them. Period. So I'm thinking that Crawford wins, but it's a 50-50 fight for sure.
I love there was a viral clip that went viral this week of Spence talking about his time sparring with Mayweather. So the urban legend goes that Spence dropped Floyd in sparring. That was kind of how I first heard about him. I was keeping an eye on him as he came up and kind of fucking called him to beat Brooke, and that I've been looking at his earlier fights, but he's telling the story of sparring. I doesn't go into whether he dropped him or not, but he says he sparred with him for 3 minutes, like, and everyone in the Mayweather gym was banging on the floor, doing the dog pound stuff and that. And when he got out of the ring, Floyd said to him, like, "You're eye for a bitch," like. And he was like, "What?" And he was like, "You're eye for a bitch." And Spence was like, "Oh no, fuck this, like, we're going back in, like, get your gear, we'll go back in." And they went back in. He's like, "Matter of fact, turn off the timer," like. So they sparred for another 9 minutes. But he said that everybody was saying to him, "Oh, don't be tripping, like, that's just the way Floyd talks to everyone." He was like, "That's the way he talks to y'all. He's not going to talk to me like that." So I fucking love that, like, absolutely love that about Spence. He was young, but like at the time he was only a prospect as well. He wasn't even a prospect. So I love the two of them, but I just think I see a controversial result somehow in this. I feel like Spence is going to get the rub, and I always felt over like maybe going back 5 years that Spence was too big for Crawford. But I feel like the inactivity and the accident and just the way Crawford keeps himself outside the ring, I think he's going to have the advantage on the night and pull off a win. I think he's going to do it from southpaw as well, by the way.
I don't know if anybody saw the All Access episode 1 for the fight. I just watched it this morning. And like for like part of the part of the episode or whatever, when he's like, I think when they were doing the face off at the press conference in New York, Spence had glasses on. And I was wondering like why? Because I mean, they didn't look the kind of like the glasses that you would wear for fashion, maybe. But did his eye get hurt in that accident? I mean,
well, he had to pull out the Pacheco fight because of an eye injury, didn't he?
Right.
Somebody's
yeah. And
never
it's
read
like,
Lord of the Flies.
But I mean, it's kind of weird because
that was an educated joke. Fuck off, Steve. That was a great joke. You got to read books to do that.
Them fruit.
We've only got Donnie very rarely, and you're making fucking Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, Lord of the Flies references. When are you going to start blowing the conch?
How is that not applicable? I mean, if you really think it through, Steve, it's very meta. Anyhow.
So, no, I'm just saying, though, I mean, like, boxing is like one sport. Like, I would say the other one is baseball. Like, if you're pitching, like, you need to see that batter. You need to see the strike zone. But in boxing, like, you need to see, like, just the twitch of a guy's muscle to see the punch that's coming next or whatever. And you have to anticipate their moves, like, 5 moves ahead. And, I mean, if his vision isn't 100%, I mean, he's enough to pass an examination. Obviously, he's fought quite a few times since the accident. But if his vision isn't like 100%, you can't go in there with the elite class of, fighters, like, other pound for pound top fighters, and not have 100% of your vision. I'm just curious if anyone thinks that's a factor. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just think it's weird.
The detached retina more so than anything should bother you. And lots of people have worn glasses and been fighters, but
I think it is a concern with the amount of injuries he seems to be racking up, especially the fact he's like sticking cars into lampposts and stuff. MB mentioned in the chat about him not being the same since the car accident, but I don't know. I don't really know that I see too much evidence of that he hasn't been the same.
Tell you what, I'd be. I don't know, like before the fights, like you get, as fight fans, like as hardcore fight fans especially, like we look to everything, like we take in every bit of footage, we look at the fucking weigh-ins, we're trying to see who looks drawn out at the weigh-in and all this shit. Like, but some of the stuff that Spence has said before, just casually on Twitter to fans, has made me think like that they obviously like the fucking like at the time of the accident, I was like, oh, we're never seeing Spence again. Like, this is fucking, he's not coming back from this. Like, but he said like, people were questioning him about his inactivity, and he was like, you do realize I was in a life-changing car accident. Like, I'm never going to be the same. So to be back out is taking something. So I think Donnie could be onto something. Like, if he has a soft face, like a Kell Brook face, since the accident, like Bud Crawford's the last guy you want to be fucking facing in that situation. You know that way.
You comparing the Golovkin fight to a car accident there, Rob?
Similar outcome, I'd say.
I love it.
I think I'd rather be in a car accident.
You have been.
Yeah, Johnny saying Ugas was hitting him a lot. He was. I think he didn't have any respect for Ugas's power. And the business way he was hurt with Ugas, he can't afford to do that against Crawford because Crawford won't let him off the hook the way Ugas did. Although I do think people were looking into it more. He got buzzed by Ugas and he got off balanced and he was kind of wobbling around the place, laughing, trying to look as cool as he could. And I don't think he was badly hurt by Ugas. But one opinion, just briefly, Donny, before we move on from this and go on to Bellew of the Weeks. I hear a lot of people saying this, and I could be completely have egg on my face come fight night, but I hear so many people saying, oh, yeah, I'm going Crawford in like 5 or 6 rounds, like as if he's just going to walk through him for all of his skills and everything of Spence. I actually am of the opinion that Spence is a big old unit and he's a hard bastard. Like, I don't foresee the conclusion of him just like sort of folding after 4 or 5 rounds. The car accident notwithstanding, he'll stand there and dog it out as far as I'm concerned.
He'll bite down.
He's a hard man. Like
he's not going to throw it, no doubt about it. He's not going to throw it. That's what's so interesting about this fight and why we wanted to see it for so long. The two of these are the best 147 pounders of since Floyd Mayweather, but undoubtedly the two of them are the best since Floyd. Like, and I don't think there's a jack in either of them, that way. So I think it's going to be a fucking entertaining fight one way or another. As long as none of them get injured now or pop for steroids before the fight happens.
Rob, shut the fuck up. I just spent a lot of money going to this fight.
Don't think so, yeah.
Believe me, Donnie, that's like the one hesitation. You have like Stanionis Ortiz get canceled, and I was really looking forward to that. And you're like, yeah, fuck you. What's going to happen in the next 3 weeks? But anyways, positive things. Let me tell. I just want to break some things down with you guys, and I think it's important to look at. Go back to 2014. Terrence Crawford fights Yuriorkis Gamboa, stops him in the 9th round. About half a decade later, Gervonta Davis gets a mercy stoppage over Yuriorkis Gamboa in the 12th, with Gamboa having an injured Achilles in that fight as well. So that's a pretty impressive stoppage right there. I think he basically retired Deary Jean, if I recall. Didn't see much of him after that. Beat the shit out of Hank Lundy, who was always very durable. Victor Postol went the distance with him. Fucking all the judges on that one had it pretty wide for Bud, but Postol gave a good account of himself on that one. Then after that, I mean, just a torrid streak of KOs. The only person who
a lot of people were calling Postol before that fight, by the way. A lot of people were making Crawford, and he made it look easy that night.
Yeah, and true. He's a good fighter. I don't underrate that victory at all. He stopped Felix Diaz. He was the only person who has stopped Felix Diaz. He beat the crap out of Jeff Horn in his first fight, moving up to 147 pounds. He is the only person to have stopped Jose Benavidez Jr. He's beat the shit out of Amir Khan.
In the 12th round?
Yep.
Benavidez managed to go into the 12th round with him.
Yeah, Benavidez is a tough son of a bitch, though. You've seen his fight for anything he lacks. He's a tough bastard, but Crawford, the only person to stop him. The fight with Kavaliauskas, where I will admit that Crawford probably should have gotten a knockdown called against him. With that uppercut, that's the one thing that concerns me in the fight with Spence. But then he stopped him in the 9th there. He stopped Kell Brook in 4. Only person to ever stop Sean Porter. And then he stopped David Avanesyan in 6 rounds. I was live for that one.
Wasn't Kavaliauskas a gold medalist as well? He wasn't a bum, like, was he?
I don't know of his amateur background, but I mean, he's fought fucking everybody at this point in time.
I'm fairly sure he was a medalist, but
he was undefeated at the time that he fought Crawford too. I mean, if you go through his record, the number of 1 loss and undefeated fighters on Crawford's record, it's quite incredible. So, I mean, to say that, he's fought nobody, I would contend that people like Terrence Crawford, they fight people and turn them into nobodies.
Is that you just stole that from Roy Jones Jr.?
Did I?
Yeah.
And I didn't have to get punched in the head 20,000 times.
That was a rap lyric that he had.
Nice.
Some people say I ain't fought nobody. I just make it look like nobody.
That's fucking awesome. That's I'm not offended by that at all.
Y'all must have forgot some of Roy Jones' rap lyrics.
Yeah.
Sorry, they just kind of run in with everything else I've ever heard, apparently. But right on, or maybe they stuck with me so well I didn't even know.
Plagiarist.
Go on, Donnie. You can have the final say.
That's a great line. Grad.
No, I don't have anything else to say other than I'm looking forward to witnessing some boxing greatness. I mean, this is the biggest fight that I think has happened since Floyd Manny.
Yes, I agree.
And the only thing that could be bigger would be Fury and Usyk, because the heavyweight division is always the glamour division in boxing. But after that, traditionally it's been the welterweight division over the last 40 years, maybe more. You're talking about Hearns, Hagler, Duran, Leonard, Chavez. I know this wasn't the best weight for all of them. Pernell Sweepy Whitaker, Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Shane Mosley, and the list goes on. Manny and Floyd,
Manny, Marquez, all of them.
Marquez. All the big names. It always seems like they meet at welterweight. And so, this is the next great chapter of the welterweight division. And I just can't wait to see how it unfolds. So that's it.
Good stuff, Donnie. Feel free to stick around.
I'm going to root for you and take your ticket.
Oh. That's not very nice. Fuck's sake. Right. Yeah, it's good to have you, Don. Like I said, stick around for Value of the Week if you want, or you can disappear. Episode 530. Donnie's here.
We haven't even discussed Nonito Donaire yet, Steve.
I don't think he's on, man. I feel like this is wasted energy.
Willy won't he? Fucking
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka.
Go on, Rob. What's your opinion on the Nonito Donaire fight?
Nonito Donaire is a great fighter who should have retired 3 years ago. He's still putting in great performances. If he fights next week, will I give a shit or not? Possibly no. I definitely no. Don't think Donaire has anything to prove. I don't know what the fuck he's still doing out here. Like, he can't beat the monster, so just fucking retire. Like, but keep getting punched in the mouth if you want to. Like, but
that bitch wife of his must be spending all of his fucking money. I mean, what the fuck is he doing out there?
Yeah, it's fucking 42 or something, isn't he? Down there, like, fucking, he's pushing on. Like,
as we mentioned earlier, he's chasing a legacy, and that's why I love Donaire so much. He has a chance to get one of the titles again after Inoue left the division, and he become beating his own record as the oldest titleist at bantamweight in the history of the division. He's an incredible fighter, first ballot Hall of Famer without a doubt. His body of work between the really, if you look from Vic Darchinyan up to Fernando Montiel, is one of the greatest stretches of the last 20 years of boxing. He is and the fighter that he was at that time was blistering. The fact that he came back and had a renaissance at a weight that he had left years and years ago, beyond incredible. And either we're going to be saying he's done too early again, and he's going to pull another rabbit out of the hat on Saturday night, or it's going to look a lot like the Walters fight. I think this Alejandro Santiago, this guy goes in, he throws punches, got a lot of draws on his record. A small handful of probably should have gone his direction. The one against the Russell brother, I think specifically, you could really look at that. He had a draw against Derwin Incajas on there as well. This kid is no joke. And if Donaire is over the hill, this is the kind of fighter who is not going to miss the opportunity. He will overwhelm him. But God, wouldn't it be amazing if Donaire has one left, because he just keeps building a legacy that now really, he's been fighting at a championship level for, like over 15 years at this point in time. Absolutely incredible.
It wouldn't surprise me if he does have one left too, because like the thing about Donaire is that all the losses that he took, like the bad losses he took, like to Walters and whatnot, we're all like 126, 122. Like, bantamweight is probably where he naturally fights. Bantamweight's 118, right?
Yeah, he got blasted by Inoue at 118, but Inoue's Inoue.
Yeah, but that you're talking about a pound for pound fighter in his fucking prime. That's a horse of a different color. But my point is that
don't bring race into this, Donnie.
Or race horses.
Yeah, but he, Donaire, the reason why he moved up to those higher divisions is because that's where the competition was, and some of the bad losses that he took were because these guys were just larger and stronger than him in most cases. Guillermo Rigondeaux outboxed him. That has to stand on its own as a achievement in and of itself. But he's
clinic.
down at 118
Absolute
because
clinic.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, but he's down at 118 because that's where he's supposed to fight. But like he was taking on bigger guys and like knocking them out, and not just like bigger guys, but like elite fighters at larger weight classes, and he was beating those guys. I mean, and so it's like, I think that like at his natural weight class, I bet he can, pull another rabbit out of a hat, as you said. So, good on him. But he does need to retire. I mean, he doesn't need this anymore. He honestly, I think he likes it. I think he likes being, who he is. I think he likes being a star. I think he likes boxing. He needs the roar of the crowd to like, get his ego satisfied or whatever. But he does, he shouldn't hurt himself and go on longer than he really should.
He's a tremendous fighter, and once the dust is cleared, and it'll be interesting. I mean, it's crazy to think about, but we're just a couple of years away from having a quarter of this century in the books, and I'd be curious for people who really know the sport and can take a non-emotional look at it, at where they might rank Nonito Donaire in the best fighters of the top 20 of the last 25 years. I think that he's in the top 25, honestly.
No, in the last 25 years, no question.
Yeah. And that's incredible. That's fucking incredible. And I mean, I mean, good on the people of the Philippines. I mean, to have two people on that list for an island, that's fucking great. I mean, I know it's a populous island, but that's killer. But yeah, just an incredible career and just freaking ageless at this point.
So good luck to Nonito Donaire, whether he fights or not next week. Matty, would be the overriding message here.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was glad that Donaire, or Donnie and I got to kiss Donaire's ass for a while. He's awesome.
Absolutely. Good ass kissing on this Sunday evening. Johnny has alerted us. Chukwu has entered the chat. Shout out to Jason Chukwu. He's just found out that Box Nation's gone off the air. So this is news to Chukwu, unfortunately. But he's with us. He's with friends. And he's spotting people and giving RIPs out in the chat. Let's get on to the Belly of the Week then. For episode 530, Donny Baseball is here. A welcome voice, as is Rapping Rob Kelly and Matty DiGialinardo. We've managed to keep it going for 2 hours, 10 minutes so far. We're doing our best. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Here's a good video to play us in this week for you, Matty. Last week we had a Porky video talking about Brexit. Well, apparently his new mate has an interesting conspiracy theory, but Porky himself isn't quite buying this about a former American president.
Officials now and all that. Listen, it's an absolute known fact that Barack Obama's wife was an African housemaid who's got a cock.
Barack Patel's wife?
Yeah. Look it up, mate.
But whatever. What was he called?
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama, yeah. Barack Obama. He's a president in the awesome or whatever.
He used to be president of America.
His wife's the bloke.
Yeah.
I don't believe that rubbish. They've got kids.
Okay.
Who's told you that load of baba?
Listen, start looking deeper.
Oh, God.
Start looking deeper.
Well, we'll change subject. What do you think to Eddie Hearn? You trust him? Is he going to deliver these fights that they're promising us?
Listen, Eddie Hearn tries to be a spin-off of what his dad is. His dad's a nice fella, you know.
You gotta look deeper.
Christ, he just fucking calls him on right there too. Where'd you do that?
Did he say his wife is a bloke?
Yeah. Well, and the way he first came into it, it's kind of hard to understand him, but he's saying that she has a cock.
See that Michelle Obama's got a cocker.
Yeah. It was that's one of the more disturbing conspiracy theories that exist. They probably ruined the validity of that.
Good advice the guy's giving there. Look deeper. Don't believe everything you're fucking ask Anthony Kroll about it. Don't fucking just take our word for it.
Actually, Rob, if trying to say that she has a penis, wouldn't you want to look outward?
Doesn't matter. I think if you're at that level, it doesn't matter. You're fucked anyway. Do you know that way?
Oh, yeah, I think seeing as there's only the four of us, we're going to have to get a bit of crawler action going here. Rob's inspired me.
Today, I am delighted to be joined by former lightweight world champion Anthony Crolla. How are you? Before we start, I would like to point out why I have made yet another Madeleine McCann film. It is to expose the mainstream media and show to the widest possible audience that their purpose is not to find out facts, investigate stories, then truthfully report them. The mainstream media are used on a daily basis across all publications by an elite few for a range of nefarious purposes. Mainstream media publications are no more than information prostitutes who serve those with enough money or power to help them with their disgusting agendas.
I'll look deeper, Rob.
Sounds like Maddie.
I tell you, does it? I support all the fucking McCann conspiracy theories, but it doesn't help that Jerry McCann looks like a fucking Scooby-Doo villain, don't he? Like, he looks like he's going to pull that fucking face off and it's a mask, like.
All about Dennis McCann these days, Rob.
Dennis the Menace, baby.
Wouldn't it?
You have a better chance of fucking Dennis the Menace turning up with something than one of them two, anyway.
Would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling crackheads.
I want to watch myself out. The fucking neighbours waving at me and all I'm talking about Jerry McCann out on the fucking street. What's the matter with me? Fuck's sake.
Oh, good stuff. Heads firmly down the rabbit hole this week. Dominic sent this to me. Clarissa the Goat Shields. Bit of a revelation here, Donny, for you. A lot of guys like me. Hell, girls too. I don't barely be liking nobody back, though. But when I like somebody, I'm damn near head over heels. And right now, I like someone. Bit of a love interest for the Goat there, Don.
Sonny Edwards, isn't it?
Wasn't me.
You a fan of the Goat, Don?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's ridiculous. But I mean, somebody should beat her if she's not. So
well said.
That was almost as fucking coherent as her tweet. Thanks for that, Donny.
I mean, no, but I mean, honestly, the truth is that I mean, she's gonna age a little bit, and then somebody hopefully will come up to like shut her mouth, and I look forward to when that happens. And,
yeah, maybe someone might beat her as well.
Hopefully. We do not, by the way, we don't want to get reported. We do not endorse domestic violence.
No, not at all. Well said. We don't endorse violence of any capacity, in fact, only on this boxing podcast.
You have to be careful because if you don't endorse some sort of like discipline in the household, then you might not be able to get on the air in places like Singapore. So you got to play that balancing act and make everybody happy.
Nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. All right, next.
Because you don't read, Donnie. You don't read.
Thank God we had Donnie here to say that this
week. Oh dear. Here's the boys. Rob, there's Eddie and Frank.
That's nice to see the Proclaimers reunited.
Who the fuck is that with Eddie Hearn?
That's Frank.
Looks like a screen grab from the intro to Joe 90, don't it? That's what I'm doing.
Well, somebody sent me this one off Twitter earlier.
Donnie sounded like when Keanu got sucked into out of the Matrix.
Donnie's been replaced by AI.
Sucked out of the Matrix, fucked out of the Matrix, looking for a handout.
Hand it to the Matrix. Oh dear, we miss Andy, R.I.P. Liam Wynn sent me this one earlier. Cam Nery loses out to an inspired Christopher Eubank at Wimbledon. I don't watch tennis myself, Matty, but apparently Eubank's turning up.
Yeah, Eubank has found a new career in tennis, moving up the rankings very quickly. He'll be taking on number 5 ranked Stefanos Tsitsipas tomorrow in what could be a compelling match, given that Tsitsipas has gone 5 sets in 2 of the 3 matches that he's played so far.
No, that match is off. He's playing Conor Benn in Dubai.
Sounds better than the opponents he was fighting on his IBO title reign, anyway. There's Donnie back with us again. You all right there, Don?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I had drifted into a no service area.
Couldn't tell.
No problem. Tim Boxeo is alerting us to this. I don't know if you're on this one or not. Crip Mac, apparently, in the new Mecca of boxing, Whoop Dad Ass Arena, in Tijuana, making his boxing debut, trained by the GOAT himself, Lovejoy Boxing, who didn't fight last week. Crip Mac, Rob.
Listen, whoop that ass is fucking... Forget about the zone, right? That's old news. Whoop that ass, and Repo Rick and the boys are where it's at. Isn't it Repo Rick that runs Whoop That Ass?
Yep.
Or Con Rodney, one of the boys.
No, one of them.
So this is where it's at. They've got their own arena now, the Whoop That Ass Arena in Tijuana. So I see this as a perfectly legitimate operation. I don't know about anybody else.
Great bunch of lads.
I think he's got that T-shirt. I think he's got that wife beater painted on him, like Shanika Johnson at her top at the weigh-in.
I can't tell if he's just fat or if he has that gynomastica, whatever the fuck it is, like from when he takes steroids.
Gynecomastia. Yeah. I don't know if he's I don't know about the trash talk at the weigh-in, but with a name like Crip Mac, I'd be wary of saying anything like "I feel sorry for your mama." You know that way.
Well, they're at the bottom there, Rob. For information, contact Repo Rick, and then there's his phone number.
I think the listeners should do the right thing and start texting Repo Rick as soon as you want to come on the pod, like Father Dave all over again.
We have to talk to Repo Rick. Why can't we talk to Repo Rick?
I hear he's only taking calls in the metaverse, so it could be difficult, but we'll try our best.
All right. Well, we'll try and get him on as best as we can. Every step will feel like a champion's stride with these new WBC trainers.
Who the fuck is buying them, by the way? Fucking even Eddie wouldn't wear them in his midlife crisis, would he? Like, no chance. Who's buying them?
I
like a pair of dunks myself, but fuck me. WBC runners, fuck out of here, man. Jesus.
I fell off the call when that picture of like Eddie Hearn and some guy in the glasses. Like, who is that guy?
That's Frank Smith. He's the next
Eddie Hearn Light. He's
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn's apprentice, kind of like he's kind of like the fucking. He's like the
He's
Dick
his
Grayson.
personal fluffer, Donnie.
He's like the Dick Grayson to Eddie Hearn's fucking Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean?
Oh Jesus.
Mm-hmm. The lads in the chat, by the way, Matty, are saying that we need to add Repo Rick to the WhatsApp Nutters group.
Yeah, like it's only right.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that actually. Anyway, history of violence. We mentioned this earlier. Me and Matty were talking about it. The rematch between Joshua and Dillian White is live on DAZN. Eddie reckons it's going to do 500,000 to 800,000 pay-per-view sales. Krista says combat sports are getting spoiled this year, and I'm living for it. They are. Just another one getting spoiled there. Old Krista.
Isn't that really Joshua White 3 because they fought in the amateurs?
Or 4 in Matty's case, with the imagined fight that never took place.
No, we've been over that. I just saw
yeah.
this one happening. I was being a Nostradamus, I guess.
Being Quasimodo.
I do have pretty bad posture, damn it.
Love that. Remember that fucking Quasimodo joke from years ago, no? Notre Dame Cathedral's on fire. And Quasimodo's on the top. He's like, And they're like, jump. They're like, jump, Quasi, jump. And he's like, They're like, what's he saying? And someone like gets close to him and they're like, he's saying that's a hump on me back, not a fucking parachute.
The mystery boy where Shadow Band goes on.
I can't understand it. I just cannot understand it.
That's a fantastic joke.
Oh dear. Frank Warren makes his prediction for Usyk versus Dubois. He's going to knock him the fuck out, says Frank. He's going in there, old Frank. He's buoyant about this fight coming up.
He said the fuck out as well, like as if it was Chris Tucker or something. You can knock the fuck out. He said Frank was knock him the fuck out. It was fucking impressive.
I will just say though, I mean, I know it's unlikely, and obviously, like if you get your ass kicked by like Joe Joyce, you know, you have to reconsider where your level is, or maybe he was just young and inexperienced. I don't know, but I mean, if he ever did knock out Usyk, because he does have the power, right? So
yeah,
you know, one shot can turn anybody's lights out.
Usyk isn't Joe Joyce. Joyce is a fucking tank.
Usyk beat Joyce in the WSB though, didn't they?
Yeah, but
I
I'm
don't
just
see
saying,
him.
If Dubois ever did do it though, I mean the fucking, you know how much money the Fury Dubois fight would make? Yeah. I mean it would be like massive.
Dubois would have to get close to him first though to do it.
I don't even see him hit Usyk, but I'd say like it would serve the three of them right if fucking Francis Ngannou fucking spanked Tyson Fury, Dillian White beats AJ, and Dubois somehow fucking tanks Usyk, like, see what that Saudi tournament looks like then, like.
God, and that's how boxing dies.
Yeah, exactly. They killed it, like, by holding it up, and fucking Dubois rise off into the sunset, like, with fucking 3 world titles. Can't see it, like, no chance.
Can't see it. I see Dubois getting stopped. We'll talk about that fight closer to the date. Talking about great stretches earlier regarding Nonito Donaire, Matt Butter said one of the greatest stretches is from Charles Martin to Jared Anderson, according to the GAD. The GAD was talking about stretches during the week, and somebody actually said
he was.
Yeah, here it is.
Out for, but good to see Jared Anderson get stretched by Martin.
GAD says he's funny now, Rob.
He's a terror, isn't he? Like, he's a terror. Can't keep the fucking connotations out of his mouth. He's like fucking Tobias out of Arrested Development.
Oh, he's enjoying life. We love the GAD. Declan Taylor says Chris Lloyd is such a good commentator, big asset for DAZN. Brian King nominated him for Bowie of the Week. He said, I think that's my first ever nomination. A proud moment, Donny, for Declan Taylor getting nominated. First ever nomination for Bowie of the Week.
Well
Donny
done.
Doesn't seem to care. Well done. Thank you, Martin.
Anyway, it's up. Speaking of.
Oh, here we are. The Bosch Army confirmed the IFL live tickets were selling fast, but they just needed a bit of an extra push. Big John Fisher will be in attendance alongside Cougs, Eddie, Darren Barker and Johnny Fisher at the Indigo. Rob, are you any more convinced to get that flight over?
Absolutely. Well, look, listen, if Coogan was struggling for fucking selling seats, he sold a few more of Big John Fisher's coming to it because he's going to take a few on his own, isn't he? Like, I can't get on board with this fucking John Fisher thing. Like, I just can't get on board with it. Like, if someone was fucking like had a TikTok channel or something, right, and they were like taking mass amounts of fentanyl and they were already looking sketchy, you kind of wouldn't get it behind it. Like, see, when Broner was on the podcast and he was drunk and everyone was like, how can they be exploiting this man's addiction? It's terrible in boxing and all. And then everyone's like, who wants a fucking burger? Fuck on, come on, big man, give it to us. Come on, he's going to die on stage some night. Like, it's not funny. Like, your fucking chap is fucking clinically fucking morbidly obese and he's getting rolled out to promote these functions for fucking, to get paid to put his fucking cholesterol up even more by feeding him more burgers. It's like, it's kind of like Seven or something, the movie. I don't know, it's weird. Like, it's a weird dynamic, this fucking John Fisher scenario for me. Like, I feel like I'm watching someone dying slowly for my entertainment and I'm all for it. You know what I mean?
You're as bad as Yumi Yappa, he says. Where is Guy Fawkes when we need him? Blow the whole fucking night.
We'll never forget.
Is he Catholic?
He's doing us all a favour, Matty. Who cares? Oh, that's a good one. You me happy. Brutalmente honesto. The final one I have here. Yeah, shout out to the Haney Rick Glaze, I think, as I mentioned earlier. Darshan Desai was responding to the McCaskill versus Sandy Ryan fight, a women's boxing match. He says, even as a lifelong Matchroom fan, I'm really getting fed up of the 1,000 women fights on DAZN. We should sell our assets to Misfits and be done with it. It's painful to watch from a lifetime Matchroom fan.
Well, he won't be subscribing to Chicks with Dig, I take it.
Oh, dear. What do you think, Matt?
I think they're a terrible human being.
Charlatan? Get him out of here.
Absolutely.
I agree. Right, that's all the ones I've got. Oh, yeah, and the one I mentioned earlier was a good one afterwards. Boots, giving a shout-out to Showtime and ESPN. Oh, sorry, I mean Espinoza. So, Stephen ESPN-oza.
ESPN-oza, brilliant.
Shout-out to Boots. That's all the ones I've got. Matty, any from you, episode 530? Any nominations, Matt?
Yeah, let's. I'll go my usual route here. I'm going to give mine to Judge Javier Alvarez from the Marlon Esparza, Gabriel Alanis fight, who scored that very close fight, 99-91 in favor of Esparza. Fucking fire this son of a bitch. Fire them now.
Yeah, absolutely. Literally fire him, maybe, Matty, to teach him a lesson.
Out of a cannon into the Gulf of Mexico.
Good stuff. That's anything else, Matty? Or was that the Lone Ranger this week?
That's all I got. I don't hang out on Twitter like these people do. I have very little interest in the bullshit that goes on there.
That'll do well. Just a solo nomination for Matty, and he's on his week ban.
That's good for
Nothing-
business, Matty. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Nothing for Ozzy.
yeah. Me who was here from the beginning of the show. Yeah. Don't blame the guy playing cricket for 12 weeks. Fuck off.
Rob, anything from you, please?
No, and I only come on for Belly of the Week, really, and I've nothing. I'm worse than fucking. No, Eddie Hearn for the glasses, the Joe 90 glasses. Like, I don't know what's fucking going on with him at the moment. Like, unbelievable. He's sporting a new pair of frames that almost look like, you know, when someone really a lot younger than you starts dressing you. I don't know what's going on there. It just looks like that from the outside. I don't know what's going on the inside, but it looks like from the outside, like a much younger person is starting to style Eddie Hearn. Like, so.
I would walk 500.
Yeah, so that, and then what was the other one? Probably something to do with John Fisher. I don't know. Like, slow week. There was fucking Stanley Otis cancellation. There wasn't really much going on. Like, was it?
I almost feel like nominating you for investing your time into really thinking through the whole John Fisher thing. Sounds like you like try to mentally work it out through the week. Like, there's got to be something deeper here.
It's just like it just rolls. It's just nonstop. It never stops. Like, he's fucking eating at something else next week more and more. Like, it's just fucking. I can't. Anyway, it's like that fucking. You know that one in Willy Wonka where she ate the fucking shit and then she blew up in the room in Charlie and Chocolate Factory? That's what it reminds me. Like, it's out next week. He was just like a big purple blob next week promoting something on IFL. Like, I should stop. Like,
turning prawn, John.
And this whole announcement that's going to be made, landscape changing. Like, Frank can talk as much as he wants. We love Frank Warren on here, like, but he can talk as much as he wants. But you're not going to fucking dress this one up. Like, if Tyson Fury has not made a fight with Anthony Joshua, who he keeps trying to catch on the hop, let's be honest about it. Like, he keeps fucking making public offers to Anthony Joshua every time he has a loss. He can't get the fight over the line with Usyk. They're waiting on the Saudis, and he's going to fight fucking Francis Ngannou as the heavyweight champion, the lineal heavyweight champion. In the meantime, like, shocking. Absolutely shocking. So yeah, that's a fucking belly of the week for me. If that gets made, it's bringing massive fucking embarrassment to the sport. Like, imagine having the flagship fighter of another fucking sport take a fucking an exhibition like that on a pay-per-view, by the way, as well. Shocking.
Shocking, says Rob Kelly. Donny, any nominations from you for belly of the week, please?
Negative.
Negative. We love a bit of negativity on this pod. Right, let's go through them quickly and then we'll all make our picks. Porky started us off with the Barack Obama conspiracies. We had the guards stretching things out as well. We also had the Goat, Eddie and his mate Frank, the Eddie Potter poster. We had Chris Eubank fighting in Wimbledon. We had Crip Mac over with Repo Rick, the BBC trainers. We had the history of violence and combat sports getting spoiled. He's going to knock him the fuck out, says Frank. He's nomination number 7. Declan Taylor has made a lifetime ambition by getting nominated himself. The Bosch Army and John Fisher get a nomination, as do Darshan Desai, a lifelong Matchroom fan. Oh, and shout out to Boots as well for Stephen E. Espinoza. Matty, who are you going for this week? Who are you going for, Matt?
I think I got to go for the pair and the goofy glasses. Why not? Let's go there.
Pair and the goofy glasses, Rob. That's Eddie and Frank. Who's getting your vote?
Yeah, them. Like, but I could give. It's a shit lineup this week, isn't it? No disrespect to anyone who sent in any bellies a week. It was not great this week because fucking there's no belly with it or anything. You know,
fuck the listeners, Rob.
Well, fuck the listeners. Yeah, no, very hard belly a week this week.
You know, I was thinking about why didn't we nominate Virgil Ortiz's training team for almost letting him die in training again?
Yeah, absolutely. We can nominate.
Yeah, let's do that, and then I say they win.
Okay, Matty's going for them.
They're almost fucking killing this guy. Jesus Christ, step in.
It's a tough sport. Donny, you got the deciding vote, I think. Here, who are you going for?
Oh, I'm going for the tortoiseshell glasses wearer. I mean, basically all they need is like a corduroy jacket and, you know, some like a cup of like expensive coffee. They could just be a bunch of lefty academics telling us how we're like racist if we don't fuck each other up the ass. I mean,
have you tried their vegan quiche? It was a delight.
Yeah, no. They look like a couple of dorks, man. Like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah, no, it definitely has to be that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you fucking dorks.
Nerds.
Okay then. Yeah. Congratulations to the dorks, Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn. You are the Belly of the Week winners for episode 530. And that's where we shall end it just before we do so, before we end the pod. John Mulhall, shout out to him. He threw in €6 earlier for us. Very much appreciated. Also, shout out to Mike Wrigley, who rejoined over at patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. He's loving life over there. He's in the Nutters group, and also you got the Prediction League. If you want to join him, go over to the aforementioned link. Thanks very much for Donny for turning up. He's getting a lot of love in the chat, naturally. Matty's been here from the start as well. Shout out to Rapping Rob Kelly for jumping in just as we were flagging to help push things over the line. I've been Steve Wellings. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Matty will be in the hot seat for episode 531. Andy's ban will have ended. He will be back with us as well. We'll catch you all again. Same time.
Quit touching the interns, Andy.
Same place.
Wait, we have interns?
Wait. Andy's like, I did not have sexual relations.
That's it's good.
As previously mentioned, Rob, for you, we have outturns.
Oh, God. Hopefully we'll be here, same time, same place, next week. Bye.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Stiltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
Thanks for the 79 Johnny.
Simple as that.